The author of this fanfiction name is Fanatic06. He works on fanfiction.net and the link is in the description to the stories.
Chapter 34, Koga and Janine of the Fuchsia Gym. After a whole month of traveling on the road with only a few Pokemon centers along the way, the group had finally reached Fuchsia City. Unlike the other cities the group had been to so far, Fuchsia City seemed to be heavily influenced by Japanese culture. All of the buildings were in the classic Japanese style. Aside from being home to Ash's next gym battle and Serena's Battle Chateau Challenge, Fuchsia City also had many attractions and festivals. Fuchsia City. It has some of the cleanest air out of all of the cities in Kanto. Misty said as she took in a huge whiff. That's because rather than cars and roadways here, Fuchsia City is well known for its greenery and wildlife. People also use more bicycles or walking for travel here. The reason why this city has such a healthy lifestyle is because of the safari zone and zoos here, Brock explained. So they need to keep the place clean so it's healthy for all of the Pokemon here, Ash stated. Right, Brock confirmed with a nod. Oh, I would love to go to a festival, here Misty commented as she clasped her hands together. That does sound like fun, Misty, Serena smiled before turning to Ash. Do you want to go to one, Ash? Sure. Why not? Ash shrugged. We're in luck. The guidebook says that there is the annual Pokemon Trainers Festival is in 2 days at the city square. We can attend that one, Brock spoke up as he looked through the helpful book. Awesome. Let's head to the Pokemon Center first. I can have my gym match tomorrow, and we can go to the festival the next day, Ash suggested as they made their way there. You sure are eager, Ash, Misty commented with a smile. Of course. This will be my first gym battle since Saffron City. I've done a lot of training with my Pokemon since then, so I want to prove that it's paid off, Ash replied. Nurse Joy! Brock cried as he immediately ran towards her and grabbed her by the hands once the group was in the Pokemon Center. Hello. What can I do for you? Nurse Joy asked nervously. What can you do for me? Brock repeated slyly. You could go on a date and later marry me. What? Nurse Joy exclaimed before Brock was grabbed by the ear from Misty and dragged off. Dragging you away by the ear is something that I can do for you, Misty muttered as she pulled him along. Not the ear again. Brock mumbled in pain. Hello, Nurse Joy. We are just here to have our Pokemon checked out, Serena said as she and Ash approached the desk. They were completely unfazed by Brock's advances by now. The only one member of the group who seemed to be confused was Kibone. This human was undoubtedly nice and a great cook for Pokemon food, but what was this strange behavior all about? Certainly, Nurse Joy replied as she took Kibone, Pikachu, and the rest of their Pokeballs. She then handed them to Chansey, who moved them into the back room on a table. While we're here, Nurse Joy, I was wondering if you could tell me what types of Pokemon the gym leader uses. That way, I can figure out which Pokemon to use when I challenge. Ash said politely. Of course. The gym leader here is well trained in the ways of a ninja and uses poison-type Pokemon, Nurse Joy responded. A ninja who uses poison types, Ash muttered thoughtfully as he put his finger to his chin. I hope it's a really pretty girl ninja, Brock gushed while his face was as red as tomato. Get over yourself, Brock. Misty scowled. So which Pokemon do you think you are going to use, Ash? Serena asked him. It's a tough decision. Pidgeotto would be an effective Pokemon to use, but I really want to use some of my newer Pokemon. Haunter and Mook have neither an advantage or disadvantage, so I can use them depending on how many Pokemon the gym leader wants to use. I'm not sure how effective Hitmonchan will be against poison types, though, Ash muttered as he looked sadly at Hitmonchan's Pokeball. I see, Serena replied while nodding her head in understanding. Even if you don't use it in this gym, there is nothing stopping you from using it during the next gym. Yeah, Ash agreed before addressing Hitmonchan's Pokeball, I promise. You are going to have your first gym battle really soon, Hitmonchan. It was now nighttime in Fuchsia City, and the group had taken to explore the sights for a little bit. As expected, it was very lively and riddled with Japanese culture. There were booths set up all in a line all across from each other selling an assortment of food and offering other activities. Ash and Serena wasted no time in going straight for some of the delicious food while Brock and Misty decided to look at different kimono outfits at a particular stall. I bet I would look really cute in this, Misty commented while she looked a particular one over. You should try it on, Misty, Brock told her. Oh, I don't know, Misty blushed before her Pokeball opened up and Psyduck popped out. Although slightly annoyed that Psyduck once more came out of its Pokeball without permission, Misty smiled at and knelt down to be more eye level with it. What is it, Psyduck? She asked kindly. Sigh, it replied while pointing at the kimono. You want me to try it on, too? Misty asked, receiving a nod from the yellow duck. See, even Psyduck thinks so, Brock encouraged while folding his arms. Well, I guess so, Misty said slowly as she took it off the hanger and went behind a folded curtain to change. Meanwhile, Ash and Serena were staring at the various types of sushi in hunger. Ash immediately went to grab for a piece of sushi with his hand, but it was soon slapped away by Serena. Ash, you should know better. Use chopsticks to grab sushi instead of your hands, Serena scolded slightly. Right. I guess I got carried away, Ash said sheepishly before getting a pear from a stack off to the side. Chuyu, Pikachu poked at Ash's shoulder once Ash began eating the sushi. Oh? You want some too, Pikachu? Ash asked the rodent, receiving a nod in the affirmative. Ash handed a piece to Pikachu who promptly put it in its mouth. The rodent chewed and smiled at the great flavor, but something was wrong. Cha-a-a-a. Pikachu cried as it began running around in circles frantically. Sorry buddy. I accidentally gave you the extra spicy kind, Ash said apologetically. Pikachu quit running and glared at Ash. Ash could tell by the look Pikachu was giving him that he would be in for a thundershock later. This sushi is delicious. Here is some for you, Cubone. Serena smiled as she gave some to the baby Pokemon. Cubone. It exclaimed in delight once it tasted the food. I bet Nidorina would like to try some, as well. Serena commented as she released the food-loving Pokemon. Nidorina. It cried before looking at the sushi in Serena's hands and smiling. Here. Why don't you try some, Nidorina? Serena asked it while holding out her hand. Nidorina immediately began eating the food from Serena's hand but as usual, was a little too eager. Don't take my fingers along with it. Serena laughed as the poison pin Pokemon finished. Sigh, Psyduck muttered as it wandered over to the group. Oh hey, Psyduck, Ash greeted once they saw it. Why aren't you with Misty? Serena asked. Sigh, it replied as it pointed to a folding curtain a short distance away where Brock was waiting. Soon, Misty emerged from the behind the curtain somewhat shyly wearing the kimono outfit. She also had her hair down out of the usual side ponytail. She then made her way over to Ash and Serena, followed by Brock. She did a slight pose for the group before asking their opinion. Hey. How do I look? She asked nervously. You look lovely, Misty, Brock answered. Like a real kimono girl. Serena added. Yeah, Ash trailed. Out of all the time he's known Misty, he had no idea she could ever look so feminine. It was a nice change of pace from her usual tomboyish attitude. Serena noticed Ash's face and frowned slightly. She really wished Ash would look at her like that more often. She soon told herself to relax as she knew Ash and Misty were just friends and didn't hold any special feelings for each other. Sigh. Siduk yelled as it turned red and fell over on its back. Siduk. Misty asked it. Ha ha ha. I think Siduk's fainted due to how great you looked, Brock told her. That goofy duck, Misty commented but smiled nonetheless. Attention, everyone. Our traditional kimono dance this month will be performed by our very own Janine in 5 minutes. Please make your way over to the stage at the front, A male's voice said over the intercom. That sounds like fun. Serena exclaimed. I agree. The way all of the girls move while dancing is so alluring, Brock commented. Once the group had made their way over to the outside stage, it was apparent there weren't any seats available to sit in. They managed to get in front of everyone and stood the closest to the stage so they had the best view. By the time the lights on the stage dimmed and the curtain rose, behind the curtain was a young girl with shoulder-length dark purple hair. She wore a traditional black kimono outfit with matching black sandals. She stood in a pose to where she had one fan in each hand. One was outstretched and the other one was covering her face. She then gracefully moved the fan away from her face to reveal brown eyes and a lovely smile before she began to dance. That must be Janine, Ash mumbled to himself. That's a really pretty looking. Huh. Serena thought as she looked at Ash in alarm. Dress, Ash finished, causing the honey blonde girl to sigh with relief. At least he didn't mention her attractiveness on appearance. Janine continued the dance as everyone watched her movements. Her moves were so mysterious and intriguing, yet so beautiful. It was clear Janine must have undergone much practice in order to get the dance just right. She then began to move towards the group until she was just in front of Ash, causing him to tilt his head in confusion. She gave him an alluring smile and a wink before gracefully moving back towards the stage. Ash turned red at the gesture that Janine had given him. Serena, meanwhile, turned red from the heated glare on her face. She really hoped this girl wasn't trying to flirt with Ash. The dance went on for a few more minutes before finally ending. Everyone applauded at the superb job Janine had done. As she left the stage, she looked towards the group and gave another wink that Ash could have sworn was directed at him. With that, she disappeared behind the curtain. Ash stood transfixed for a moment, staring at the place where Janine had left before Brock waved his hand in front of his face. Earth to Ash, Brock called. Serena had an angry look on her face as she still watched the stage. She couldn't believe that kimono girl had the nerve to flirt with Ash. He even seemed to be affected by it. Oh no, she didn't. Serena thought. The group still ended up having a great night. After Janine had danced, they spent the rest of the evening going through the various booths and eating the delicious food, though Serena was clinging to Ash a little more than she usually did the rest of the time they were there. Ash, who had lost some of his denseness since starting his journey a while back, knew it probably had something to do with Janine but decided not to ask Serena. Ash figured it would be best to just let it be and let her be by him if that made her feel better, not that he minded, of course. He sure was enjoying Serena being next to him all the time. It seemed that no matter what order the group was sitting or walking in, Ash and Serena were next to each other in some way. It was now the next day, and the group decided to start things off with Ash's gym battle at Fuchsia City. After losing to Sabrina, Ash was determined to win this gym battle. He trained his Pokemon extra hard this past month and was about to see the results. While he doubted the Fuchsia City gym leader was as cold and emotionless as Sabrina, if worse came to worse, he would make sure to forfeit the match before there were any severe injuries. He wasn't about to make the same mistake twice like back in Saffron City. Just like all of the other buildings in Fuchsia City, with the exception of the Pokemon Center, the Fuchsia Gym was definitely a reference to Japanese culture. It seemed all of the Gyms the group had been to had their own differences to make them unique. Pewter City's gym looked like a giant boulder. Cerulean City's gym looked like a giant aquarium, and Celadon City's gym looked like a large shop that sold perfumes. In the case of Fuchsia City's gym, it looked like an ancient Japanese castle. The group approached the doors, and Ash let out a big sigh before turning to his rodent partner. "Are you ready to win our 5th badge, Pikachu?" he asked. "Pika-Pi." It responded with determination. The group then opened the sliding doors and stepped in. The inside of the gym looked very much like the fighting dojo in Saffron City, just minus the hulking men and a lot bigger. There was no sign of the gym leader, or anyone else for that matter. They figured a place this large would be overflowing with people, but it was quite the opposite. "Hello," Ash called as he stepped further into the building. Once again, there was no response. "I guess we should try looking around," Brock suggested. Ash nodded, continued to walk further into the gym until he bumped into something hard. "Ow," Ash said as he rubbed his nose painfully. "What's wrong?" Serena asked as the group came up to where he was. "There's something here that's blocking the way, but I don't see anything," Ash told them in confusion. Brock muttered as he brought of his fist and knocked on the hard substance before making his conclusion. "It's an invisible wall." "Why is there an invisible wall here? Furthermore, if there is one here, how are we supposed to look around?" Ash asked in exasperation. The group bowed their heads in thought as they tried to figure out what they could do. Misty leaned against a nearby wall for support, and to her great surprise, the wall flipped horizontally, which sent her falling to the other side. "Whoa!" Misty cried as she fell through. "A trick wall," Brock muttered in thought again as they passed through like Misty before them. Misty was rubbing her behind painfully as the rest of the group joined her in the room. It looked like this room was no different than the one before it. It was just another large, empty room. "This place is really weird," Ash said as they looked around the room. "How are we even supposed to find the gym leader if there are invisible walls and trick doors all over the place?" His question was soon answered, however. The group heard a cry of "Hiya!" as a throwing star was thrown right past Ash and Pikachu's faces. It embedded into the wall behind them, causing the two to freeze. "Whoa! What was that?" Ash asked his rodent partner on his shoulder. "Chuyu," Pikachu replied nervously. "It appears to be a ninja star," Brock replied as he went over to the projectile and pulled in from the wall to inspect it. Just then, another ninja star flew through the air. It once more sailed right past Ash and Pikachu's faces. Brock yanked his hand out of the way with a cry just in time as the star struck where it was just a second ago. "Hey! Who's throwing those?" Ash yelled across the room, but saw no one. "Hiya!" a voice soon hollered across the room again. The group then saw a figure drop down from seemingly nowhere and landed gracefully in a kneeled position. The figure was revealed to be a young girl with dark purple hair tied back in a spiky ponytail and brown eyes. She stood up and smirked at the group. There was something familiar about her. Upon a closer inspection, the group let out a gasp of surprise as they realized she was the girl who danced the previous night. "Wait. You're that kimono girl. What are you doing here?" Ash exclaimed. "I think a better question is what are you doing here?" Janine replied smartly. "I'm Ash Ketchum. I'm here to challenge the Fuchsia City gym leader for a soul badge," Ash declared. "Pi Pikachu," Pikachu added for emphasis. "A soul badge, you say?" Janine smiled slyly as a glint appeared in her eye. "If that's the case, you will have to beat me to get it." "You mean you're the gym leader of Fuchsia City?" Ash exclaimed as the rest of the group put on surprised faces. "That's right. Graceful as a nine-tails, swift as a Rapidash, deadly as a Scyther. The Ninja Janine of Fuchsia City Gym." That's me. Janine finished with a pose. Hey, Brock, Misty whispered in his ear. Wasn't the Fuchsia Gym leader a man named Koga last time I checked? It was, Brock confirmed quietly, as well. Have we been out of the loop that long since leaving our gyms? Well, Janine. I challenge you to a battle. Ash stated as he brought out a pokeball. I accept your challenge, Ash. Janine answered with a smile. It will be a 3-on-3 Pokemon match. Only you can make substitutions. If you win, the soul badge is yours. Sounds good to me. Ash said with determination. If you lose. Janine added with a smirk and wink, you have to go on a date with me. Pikachu, Cubone, Misty, Brock, and Serena let out surprised gasps once more at that statement. Ash, on the other hand, looked neutral. She said what? Is she serious? Serena thought in panic as her face turned red. I guess that would be okay if we hung out, Ash replied with a shrug. It's not hanging out, Ash. She means an actual date. Misty yelled at him. Oh, Ash muttered as he turned red from the awkwardness of the situation. I guess I don't have a choice because I need the soul badge. Going on a date can't be that bad. WH what? Serena thought as she felt tears come to her eyes, her anger turning to heartbrokenness. Ash was actually agreeing to go out with her. Misty happened to see Serena's expression and glared at Ash. Hey, Ash. For your own sake, you better hope you win. She yelled. Ash turned around to face Misty to ask what she meant until he noticed Serena standing next to her. Her extremely upset look was all Ash needed to see before he realized his mistake. He really messed up and didn't think about what he was saying. He knew how special Serena felt about him since his birthday. He couldn't go back on his word with Janine since he already agreed to the terms. Misty was right. He really had to win this one lest he damages his friendship with Serena. Ready when you are, Ash. Janine called. All right. Pidgeotto. I choose you. Ash called as he released the bird Pokemon. Pidgeot. It cried as it got into a battle position. A Pidgeotto. I shall choose my Weezing. Janine declared as she threw forward her Pokeball. Ash had battled a Weezing before against Team Rocket, but he had no doubt that Janine's was a lot more powerful. We shall begin our match, now. Janine announced. All right, use quick attack, Pidgeotto. Ash shouted. Dodge it and use sludge, Weezing. Janine countered. Pidgeotto was very fast, but Janine's Weezing still managed to swiftly float out of the way. Pidgeotto soared past Weezing as it turned around and launched the nasty sludge at Pidgeotto. Pidgeotto U-turned and got smacked with the gunk right in the middle of the chest, which knocked it to the floor. That Weezing's a lot faster than I thought it would be, Ash muttered. Use smog, Weezing. Janine called. Get up and blow that smog away, Pidgeotto. Ash shouted. Pidgeotto gave a mighty flap of its wings and took off to avoid the smog attack. It then used gust to blow away all of the poisonous gas back towards Weezing. Weezing, of course, wasn't affected by the smog attack. Let's try to outspeed that Weezing by using agility. Ash hollered. Use sludge, Janine yelled. Pidgeotto began flying around the room at breakneck speed. Weezing, however, was able to keep up due to Pidgeotto's linear pattern and continued to use sludge. Make your patterns unpredictable so Weezing can't keep up, Pidgeotto. Ash told it. The bird Pokemon then began moving in zigzags all over the room while using agility. It was going up, down, and spiraling. Weezing was beginning to get dizzy because it couldn't keep up with Pidgeotto's erratic movements. Use wing attack. Ash ordered. Weezing began to frantically look around for Pidgeotto but had lost it. It soon felt a large wing slam right on top of its largest head, but quickly shook itself from the pain. Use smoke screen, wheezing. Janine called. Blow it away like last time. Ash countered. Once again, Pidgeotto blew the smoke back towards wheezing. I thought you might do that, Janine smiled. What do you mean? Ash asked. Being a ninja, I train in the many ways of stealth, and I teach my Pokemon this, also. I expected your Pidgeotto to direct the smoke back at wheezing, but since wheezing isn't affected by its own attacks, all you did was conceal its location while Pidgeotto is wide open, Janine explained. Ash remembered this was similar to the strategy he used against Brock at the pewter gym with Pidgeotto all that time ago. He was able to get many hits in because Pidgeotto's location was concealed. Now he was at the receiving end of the trick. Be careful, Pidgeotto. Wheezing could be anywhere. Ash warned. Pidgeotto looked around at the giant smoke cloud, trying to find any source of movement. Then, out of nowhere, a sludge attack burst from the smoke cloud from Pidgeotto's right, striking it once again. Pidgeotto yelled in pain once more, but managed to stay in the air. Finish with tackle. Janine yelled once more. Try to sense where wheezing is, Pidgeotto. Ash told it. Use your abilities to sense for changes in the airflow when wheezing moves. Pidgeotto nodded and closed its eyes and focused on nothing but the air around it. So far, it was absolutely still. Pidgeotto knew wheezing would have to move fast if it were to attack it, so it would feel the air change when that happened. The absolute silence was pretty unnerving. All there was on the battlefield was Pidgeotto and a giant smoke cloud in front of it. After what felt like an eternity, Pidgeotto felt a whoosh to its right and opened eyes to give Ash the signal. Use Steel Wing. Ash ordered, taking the hint. A split second later, wheezing emerged from the smoke cloud, charging straight for Pidgeotto. The bird Pokemon reared its right wing back as it glowed white. It then swung it forward and smacked wheezing right in the middle of its larger face. The poison Pokemon went sailing backwards like a baseball that had been hit by a home run hitter. It slammed into the wall hard and Ash called the finishing attack. Finish with quick attack. Ash yelled. Pidgeotto charged forwards once more and slammed into wheezing with its beak. Wheezing then sank to the ground, defeated. Your Pidgeotto beat wheezing. Janine said in amazement. Yep. I knew Pidgeotto wouldn't let me down. Ash smiled as he gave a thumbs up to his bird Pokemon. Pidgeotto hooted happily in response. That was smart to use Pidgeotto's skills as a bird to look for changes in air currents to locate wheezing, Brock commented. Yeah, Serena trailed. Cubone, noticing its mommy's distress, gave her a reassuring pat on the arm. Thanks, Cubone, Serena weakly smiled and hugged the baby Pokemon. Don't worry, Serena. Didn't you say that Ash has never let you down, before? I don't think he will this time, either, Misty said in an attempt to cheer her up. I know. It's just, he actually agreed to go on a date with Janine after I told him how I felt about him, Serena mumbled. I don't think Ash did it on purpose, Serena, Brock told her. Knowing Ash, he will definitely find some way to make it up to you. That's just the kind of guy he is. Janine recalled her wheezing and smiled sadly at it. Thanks for a great job, wheezing. Take a good rest, she told it. She then looked at Ash. Your Pidgeotto did very well, but wait. Until you try my next Pokemon. Pidgeotto and I are ready for anything. Ash declared. Pidgeotto agreed. Janine was just about to send out her next Pokemon when a new voice broke out into the room. End the battle at once. The voice ordered. Everyone in the room turned to where the voice had come from. The owner was revealed to be a middle-aged man with tall black hair ending in spikes. He wore a dark robe and had a calm yet serious expression on his face. Upon seeing the man, Janine instantly looked guilty and looked down at the floor. Excuse me, sir, but we are in the middle of a very important match. I'm attempting to win a soul badge from the gym leader, Ash said. That is not the gym leader of Fuchsia City, the man stated, earning a gasp of surprise from the group. That is my daughter, Janine. So you aren't the gym leader? Ash asked the ninja girl. I apologize for tricking you. I was just so eager to have a real gym match with an opponent, Janine answered as she continued to look at the floor. Upon hearing this, Serena instantly got an annoyed expression on her face and slid over to Janine. So you weren't really the gym leader, yet you decided to raise the stakes by saying Ash had to go on a date with you if he lost. What were you planning on doing if he won? Considering you aren't the gym leader? She asked in a sassy tone with her hands on her hips, Cubone mimicking her motions. I didn't really get that far because I wasn't planning on losing, Janine said as she twiddled her thumbs and avoided eye contact with Serena. Serena smiled triumphantly at being able to bring this ninja girl off of her pedestal, until Janine said her next sentence. Hey! What are you supposed to be? Ash's girlfriend or something? Janine asked. Serena instantly blushed and looked away. Ash isn't my boyfriend, she muttered sheepishly. Curse this girl for bringing that to light in front of Ash. Janine smirked now that she found a weak spot. Then why are you so concerned that I want to go on a date with Ash? Serena took a while to answer as she continued to look away. She turned towards Ash and saw him watching the two of them in confusion and embarrassment. This caused Serena to turn even redder than she already was. Ash was probably thinking they were acting ridiculous. I just care a lot about Ash, so I care about who he goes on a date with, she said lamely. So you like him, don't you? Janine smiled deviously. Curse this girl and her big mouth. Serena thought. She was so embarrassed. That's enough, Janine, the new man scolded as he went over to her. Janine turned and bowed to the man. I apologize, father, she said formally. Janine's father then turned to Ash. Young man, the true gym leader of Fuchsia City whom you seek is me. My name is Koga. My daughter Janine is a gym leader in training. Ah, so you're the real gym leader, Ash realized, glad the topic had moved away from the two girls arguing about him. Indeed I am, Koga confirmed. In that case, I would like to challenge you to a gym battle so I can win a soul badge, Ash declared. I will accept your challenge, young man. I can see you are a very capable battler, Koga replied with a nod. Excuse me, sir. I noticed you said that Janine was a gym leader in training. Perhaps it isn't any of my business, but were you planning on retiring soon? Misty asked curiously. No, ma'am. Quite the opposite, actually. I have received many recommendations to qualify for the Elite Four in the past year. I have undergone special training to be worthy and accepted. That is why I am training my daughter to succeed me as the gym leader of Fuchsia City should I become an Elite Four member in the future, Koga explained. Awesome. I get to battle a gym leader who has received recommendations for the Elite Four. Ash exclaimed excitedly. Your enthusiasm is admirable, young one, Koga commented while he bowed his head and smiled. However, enthusiasm alone isn't enough to defeat me. Ash nodded his head as Koga went to stand on the opposite of the room from him. Ash didn't want to push Pidgeotto, so he returned it to his Pokeball so it could take a nice rest. He figured Koga used poison types like Janine, so what were the options of Pokemon he could use? Janine, will you be the judge of the battle? Koga asked his daughter. Yes, father, Janine replied with a bow before hurrying away from Serena to the other side of the room. Serena glared after her before blushing again and returning to where she was next to Brock and Misty to watch the battle. The nerve of her. Serena thought. Who knows what Ash is thinking of me right now? This is so embarrassing. Cubone said reassuringly as it patted her on the arm. Since you have already used one of your Pokemon against Janine, we shall have a 2-on-2 battle rather than 3. Is that acceptable? Koga asked. That's fine with me. Ash smiled. Koga smirked once more. Pokemon are not merely about brute force. You shall see soon enough. Venomoth. I choose you, he said as he released his first Pokemon. A large, purple moth-like Pokemon appeared from the Pokeball. It had large eyes and scaly wings. Venomoth! It cried. A Venomoth, Ash muttered as he and Serena scanned it. Venomoth, the moth Pokemon and the evolved form of Venonat. The dust-like scales covering its wings are color-coded to indicate which poison it has, said the Pokédexes. In that case, I'll fight fire with fire. Mook. I choose you. Ash yelled as he released the sludge Pokemon. Muyuyuk. It cried. It was very excited for its first gym battle. It raised its slimy hands in the air in an intimidating manner. Ah! I see you are using a poison-type Pokemon of your own to minimize Venomoth's techniques, Koga commented. Do you think Mook has what it takes to beat Venomoth? Misty asked Brock. I think it's possible, Brock replied. Mook will be immune to many of the poisonous powders that Venomoth has on its wings, but I'm sure there are other techniques Koga has. The match shall now begin. Janine declared. Mook. Use sludge. Ash yelled. Mook instantly shot a gooey black liquid at Venomoth, but Koga was ready. Use double team, Venomoth. Koga ordered. The moth Pokemon immediately split into multiple images of itself and surrounded Mook. The sludge went right through a copy, and Mook looked around in confusion. Now use Psychic, Koga said calmly as he folded his hands in his sleeves. Venomoth and its copies shot a blast of psychic waves at Mook. The sludge Pokemon yelled in pain from the super effective hit. Despite the great amount of pain, it knew which Venomoth was the real one now because of where the attack hit. It went to attack it, but Venomoth had already switched around positions with its copies before Mook could focus on where it went. That Venomoth knows psychic attacks. I knew there had to be some trick that Koga was prepared for, Brock commented to Misty and Serena. Okay, Mook. The real Venomoth should move a split second before all the rest. I need you to focus on all of them. Ash told the sludge Pokemon. Mook nodded and looked around at the many Venomoth flying around the room to confuse it. It wouldn't be long until Koga ordered another attack. Sure enough, the Poison Gym leader told Venomoth to go in for another psychic attack. Mook studied its opponent to see which one moved first. The second one from the right seemed to move a split second before the rest, and Mook knew that was its target. It would make sure to keep its eyes on that one. Use Minimize to dodge that attack, Mook. Ash called. Mook sucked in its sludge body as much as it could and sank into the ground as just a puddle. The psychic waves just missed it, and Mook emerged from the sludge puddle unharmed. It still had its eyes on the target despite the erratic movements all the copies were making. It was once the leader of a horde of Grimmers, so it was used to keeping its eyes on one target out of several. By the look on Mook's face, Ash could tell it had found the real Venomoth. He just had wait for Koga to command another attack so Venomoth would slow down. It seems your Mook is very quick with its Minimize, Koga commented. It seems we may have to slow it down to get another attack in. Use Stun Spore, Venomoth. Venomoth and its copies quit moving in erratic patterns and begin flapping its wings quickly to spread the dust over Mook, but that pause was all Ash and Mook needed. Use Sludge, Mook, Ash yelled. Mook once more quickly shot out the nasty liquid while Venomoth was still flapping its wings to sprinkle the powder. It hit Venomoth right in the middle section, knocking it backwards, but it still managed to stay in the air. Now use poison jab. Ash called. Mook extended its sludge-covered arm. Its arm crossed the room and punched Venomoth hard, sending it flying until it hit a wall. Use sludge again. Ash hollered. Use confusion, Venomoth. Koga ordered. Mook shot the sludge again right at Venomoth's face, completely blocking its view. Venomoth's eyes glowed blue as the sludge attack became enveloped in blue energy. Venomoth redirected the nasty liquid back at Mook, but it wasn't counting on another attack right behind sludge. As soon as the sludge attack was sent back to Mook, Venomoth saw Mook's hand break through the sludge coming right towards it for another poison jab. The attack collided with Venomoth, and it sank to the ground. The sludge attack still hit Mook, but it didn't appear too fazed by it. Venomoth, are you able to battle, still? Koga asked. Mu'uth, it muttered weakly. I see, Koga replied before returning. Take a nice hard rest, friend. You battled well. Venomoth is unable to battle. The winner is Mook. Janine announced. That was great, Mook. You were awesome. Ash praised. Muyuk. It exclaimed happily. You might have been able to defeat Venomoth in battle, but you have yet to see my strongest Pokemon. It has recently evolved due to all the training we have been through. Are you prepared? Koga asked. We're ready. Ash confirmed. Pika-Pi. Pikachu added. Very well. Crobat? I choose you. Koga called as released his final Pokemon. A Crobat? What's that? Ash wondered aloud. Was it one of the Pokemon he hadn't heard about yet like Magby and Illichid? Crobat was revealed to be a dark purple, bat-like Pokemon. It had two large wings at the top, and its feet served as smaller wings. It had yellow eyes and its teeth were clearly visible. Ash and Serena immediately took out their Pokédexes to scan the new Pokemon in curiosity. Crobat, the bat Pokemon and the evolved form of Golbat. It flies so swiftly and silently that no one can notice it even when nearby, the Pokédexes reported. I wasn't aware a Golbat could evolve, Ash muttered to himself. He had no knowledge of a Crobat's existence until now, so it's almost like he was battling completely blind. He didn't know what to expect from this thing. Crobat? Use Confuse Ray. Koga called. Try to move out of the way of the ray with Minimize, Mook. Ash hollered. Mook obeyed and attempted to suck its body in like before, but the Confuse Ray shot out of Crobat at such speed that it wasn't able to use Minimize in time. Mook was enveloped in the light and raised its sludge arm in an attempt to block out the light. Once the ray died down, Mook had a dazed expression, its face with swirly eyes. It was confused. Use Poison Jab, Mook. Ash yelled. Mook did as it was told, but when it reached extended its arm, its aim was way off and missed Crobat by a large margin. Use Mega Drain, Koga ordered calmly. Crobat's eyes began to glow as it stared straight at Mook in the eyes. A blue energy began to envelop Mook, and it began to yell in pain as its energy was depleted. Ash, knowing the situation was hopeless, decided to recall Mook before it was injured any further. There was no point in it battling anymore if it was confused and couldn't break free of Mega Drain. Mook. Return. Ash called as he brought it back. He then looked at and smiled. Thanks for an awesome job, Mook. You deserve a good rest. A wise decision, young man, Koga noted. Mook did a really good job, but it just couldn't keep up with Crobat's speed, Brock commented from the side. Hey, Brock. You have a Zubat. Do you know of any way it can become a Crobat? Misty asked curiously. I really don't, Brock answered as he looked at Zubat's Pokeball in thought. Being the breeder I am, though, I'm sure I'll figure it out. Zubat and I just have to work hard and find out together. Ash began going through the remaining options in his head to figure out who could stand up to the agile Crobat. Squirtle, Hitmonchan, Haunter, and Pikachu were all still very capable of battle. Which of these would be his best option? He figured if he was going to have a chance to beat a tricky Pokemon like Crobat, he would need to use a tricky Pokemon himself. With that, he made his decision. Haunter. I choose you. Ash yelled as he released the ghost Pokemon. Ah, a ghost Pokemon. An interesting choice, indeed, Koga said. Wait until you see what we can do. Ash shouted. Haunter. Use Shadow Ball. Haunter brought its hands close together and formed a black orb in its hands before shooting it at Crobat. Dodge it, Crobat, Koga said. Crobat seemed to disappear into the air as it suddenly appeared in a different spot because it moved so fast. If Ash didn't know better, he would have thought Crobat had teleported. Wow! That's so fast! Ash thought in amazement. Use Confuse Ray, again, Crobat, Koga ordered. Counter with your own Confuse Ray, Haunter. Ash called. Both Pokemon shot out a bright ray which collided in midair and cancelled out the effects. Use Poison Fang. Koga yelled. Crobat immediately appeared in front of Haunter due to its speed and bit down on the ghost Pokemon. Due to Haunter's secondary typing of poison, it was immune to the toxic effect, but it still hurt terribly. Grab onto Crobat so it can't get away. Ash shouted. Haunter grabbed onto the speedy bat with its disembodied hands despite the pain and grinned mischievously at Crobat. Use Shadow Ball. Ash called. Haunter once more formed a black glowing orb and struck Crobat at point-blank range. There was an explosion, and Crobat was sent flying backwards, but it wasn't down yet. Not bad, young man. I will make sure not to make the same mistake twice, though, Koga commented. Try your Nightshade attack, Haunter. Ash yelled. Dodge it and use Wing attack. Koga countered. Crobat easily dodged the Nightshade. The dark energy missed its target by a long shot. It again seemed to teleport because it was moving so fast. Haunter was fast as well, but Crobat's speed was on a whole different level. Crobat appeared again in front of Haunter and gave it a harsh slap with its wings, knocking the ghost Pokemon backwards. Use Double Team. Koga ordered next. Crobat split into several copies of itself which only made things more confusing for Ash and Haunter. All of the copies then began to move throughout the room very quickly. It was easier to tell which Pokemon was the real one when Venomoth had used it because it was slower, but Crobat was so fast, that Ash and Haunter couldn't make heads or tails of which one was moving first. They were in a tough situation. Use Aerial Ace, said Koga. It appeared as if all of the Crobat were zooming towards Haunter at an incredible speed as they closed in. Dodge it, Haunter. Ash yelled. Haunter disappeared from the middle and appeared once more away from all of the copies. However, it was surprised to feel Crobat ram into it from behind. Haunter was sent sailing towards the ground where it hit the floor in pain. Your Haunter does well at dodging attacks. However, Aerial Ace is a move that never misses. You would do well to remember that, Koga informed Ash from across the room. Haunter. Can you still battle? Ash asked worriedly, mentally kicking himself or forgetting something like that. Hey, enter, the ghost Pokemon said as it slowly floated back off the ground and stared once more at the many Crobat flying around the room. Think, Ash. The raven-haired boy thought to himself. Haunter has a slew of tricky moves it can use. There has to be something that can find the real Crobat. He then began to go through all of Haunter's moves as quickly as he could. Shadow Ball, Nightshade, Mean Look, Confuse Ray, Lick, Spite, Shadow Punch, that's it? Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch is a move that never misses. It can find the real Crobat no matter how fast or how many Crobat there are. Ash thought before calling out, "Haunter, use Shadow Punch." Haunter closed its eyes as one of its hands seemed to disappear away from the rest of its body. About a second later, the hand came through the wall balled into a fist before striking the Crobat the second farthest to the left. Crobat let out a cry of surprise as Haunter's fist collided with its face. The other Crobat disappeared upon the real one being found due to it being thrown off balance. "That was great, Haunter," Ash praised. "Impressive, but we're not beat yet." "Use Aerial Ace," Koga said. "Use Shadow Punch again," Ash yelled. Both Pokemon were hit by their respective attacks once more. Upon being hit again, it was clear both Pokemon were becoming pretty tired. Ash knew that constantly using Shadow Punch wasn't going to defeat Crobat due to the low power of the move. He would need something that was a lot stronger. The only problem was Crobat was too fast to be hit by any other of Haunter's moves. It would have to be very close for Haunter to hit it. That's when Ash had an idea. "Haunter, use Shadow Punch as hard as you can from behind Crobat to send it into your direction," Ash shouted. Haunter must have known what Ash was thinking as it nodded before having its fist appear behind Crobat and punching it like before. Only this time, it put in a little extra force to give Crobat momentum. Crobat was sent spiraling in Haunter's direction as it tried to regain balance, but Ash wasn't going to give it a chance. "Fly over, and grab Crobat before it can fly away," Ash called. Haunter flew towards Crobat as fast as it could and caught the bat Pokemon in its hands before grinning once more at the Crobat. "Use Poison Fang," Koga called. "Use Nightshade," Ash yelled. Crobat once more bit down on Haunter with its vicious fangs, causing the ghost Pokemon to grimace in pain once more. Haunter pushed through the nasty bite and sent several waves of dark energy right into Crobat's face. The bat Pokemon cried out in pain before Ash called out the finishing move. "Use Shadow Ball," Ash yelled again. "Use Bite," Koga cried. This time, Haunter was faster than Crobat due to it being in better shape. Haunter quickly formed the black, spherical ball before Crobat could retaliate and let it fly. The Shadow Ball smashed into Crobat's face before causing an explosion. Both trainers waited anxiously for the smoke to clear to see what the outcome was. About 10 seconds later the smoke cleared to reveal Haunter still holding onto Crobat. Only this time, Crobat wasn't moving. Haunter then let go of the bat Pokemon, and it fell to the ground and didn't get up. "I can't believe it. Crobat was beaten," Koga said. "That was great, Haunter. You did it?" Ash exclaimed in excitement. "Pi Pikachu," Pikachu added. "Haunt haunt," Haunter said happily before flying over to Ash and covering his whole face with a hug. "Hey, Haunter. I can't see," Ash said as he and the ghost Pokemon laughed. "Ash just won the Soul Badge. I knew he could do it." Serena thought happily before a more depressing thought came to her head. That still didn't mean Ash hadn't originally agreed to go on a date with Janine if he lost. It was then Miette's words rang in her ears before they parted. "One more thing," Miette spoke up, which caused Serena to look back to her. She then leaned forward with a sly look on her face. "Ash is quite the gentleman. If you keep your head in the clouds for too long and don't take action, another girl could steal him from you, even me." Miette was right, Serena thought as tears formed in her eyes. "I'm waiting too long to tell Ash that I really like him, and other girls are taking an interest in him. It seems he's starting to notice them, as well. I told him my feelings in the snow cave, but it wasn't a true confession." "Cubone?" Cubone asked as it saw its mommy crying. "I'll be fine, Cubone," Serena mumbled before attempting a smile at the Pokemon she was holding. Cubone didn't buy it, however. It turned around in Serena's arms until it was facing her before giving her a hug with its small arms. It didn't quite know what was wrong with her. But it still hated to see her upset. "You're so sweet, Cubone." "Thank you. I really needed that," Serena said quietly as she hugged it back. Brock and Misty stood solemnly as they watched Serena. They knew the only one that could help Serena was Ash, himself. They hoped he had a solution. Koga and Janine then went over to Ash before bowing to him. "I submitted everything to you I could muster. It seems I must hone my skills. You have defeated both me and my daughter. This soul badge is rightfully yours," Koga said before presenting a pink heart-shaped badge to Ash. "Thank you, Koga," Ash said appreciatively before taking the soul badge from Koga's outstretched palm and holding it out in front of him. "All right. I just got a soul badge. I'm over halfway to the Pokemon League now." "Pi Pikachu," Pikachu said as it made a V shape with its fingers once more. "Haunter," the ghost Pokemon added happily. "That was well done, Ash." Haunter and Mook did incredible for their first gym battles, Brock praised as he, Serena, and Misty joined him. "Congratulations. That training really paid off," Misty added. "Thanks, guys," Ash answered before he noticed Serena hadn't said anything. Her pink hat was covering her eyes so Ash couldn't see her expression. "Serena?" Ash asked in worry. Serena quickly looked up before giving Ash a cheerful smile. "You did wonderful, Ash. I'm so happy you got your next badge." "Thanks," Ash said. He could tell that the smile was very forced. She was almost acting like she was at the Battle Chateau in Cerulean City. He really didn't want to go through that again. "Hey, Ash. Would it still be okay for us to hang out later?" Janine asked. "Janine? A true ninja does not say things like that," Koga scolded. "Sorry," Janine muttered and bowed once more. Despite training to be a ninja and gym leader, she still possessed many childlike qualities. Ash noticed that Serena's expression had darkened again once Janine mentioned she and Ash hanging out once more. It was then he understood why she seemed upset. She had poured her heart out to him in the snow cave, and here he was almost accepting a date from another girl. Ash didn't quite understand what his feelings were, but he knew he just couldn't leave them alone this time. He then believed he had a solution for this problem. "Brock, Misty, Pikachu, Cubone, can I speak to Serena in private?" "We'll catch up in a second," Ash said once they left the Fuchsia City gym. Brock and Misty glanced at each other before nodding and walked ahead of the group. Pikachu leaped off Ash's shoulder while Cubone jumped out of Serena's arms. Pikachu then took Cubone by the hand and led it away from its mommy and daddy. The four then looked back at Ash and nodded their heads for support before continuing on. Ash waited until they were out of sight before turning to Serena. She had her head down and looked pretty upset. Just seeing that expression on her face was enough for Ash's heart to shatter. "Serena, I'm really sorry about what happened with Janine. I wasn't thinking at all when I said I would go on a date with her," Ash told her as sincerely as possible. "It's okay, Ash. You're free to hang out with any girl you choose. It isn't like we are dating or anything," Serena said quietly while giving Ash another false smile, but the raven-haired boy didn't fall for it this time. "Why do the words dating Serena have such a strange effect on me?" Ash thought before continuing. "It's not okay, Serena. I betrayed your trust by doing that, and that was wrong. I really am sorry. I'll be fine, Ash." "You don't have to apologize," Serena said dismissively as she began walking again, but Ash wasn't going to let her go on until this was really settled. Ash began thinking of anything he could that would let Serena know how important she was to him, something that would make her feel special. He then realized the answer was extremely obvious the whole time. Serena, Ash called out to her, causing her to stop and turn to look at him. Ash, I accept your apology. We're good. Let's just forget about it, Serena said tiredly, but not for long. Ash took a deep breath. Serena, will you go on a date with me? He asked in a quiet voice. Serena's eyebrows instantly shot up as far as they could go as she looked at Ash in surprise. WH what? She stammered in amazement, quite sure she had misheard him. Surely Ash Ketchum wasn't actually asking her out? I said, will you go on a date with me? Ash repeated in a stronger voice this time. Serena felt like she could faint. This was like a dream come true. Ash Ketchum, the boy who seemed to know nothing about feelings of love, was really asking her on a date. Those had to be the best words she had ever heard come out Ash's mouth so far. Serena put on an expression of pure joy before giving her response. Ash, I would love to go on a date with you, she said as tears came to her eyes, but happy tears this time. That's great. Ash replied as he turned red. We can spend the whole day together in Fuchsia City tomorrow, just you and me. We'll send our Pokemon to the play area at the daycare center where they can have fun while we're gone. I'm sure Brock and Misty will find something to do together, as well. It will be only us. Serena smiled even bigger, and that alone instantly made Ash smile in response to see how happy Serena looked. Thank you so much, Ash. You have no idea how much this means to me, Serena said as she wiped her eyes to try to dry her tears. I'm just glad to see you happy again. We'll have a lot of fun tomorrow. Ash replied as he walked over to her to give her a hug. Serena blushed furiously as Ash embraced her. She was finally going to get to go on a date with Ash Ketchum, the boy she had liked, loved for so long. Her young age be darned. She knew what she was feeling. Ash even had been the one to ask her out on his own free will. Any bitter feelings about Janine instantly vanished and were forgotten. She closed her eyes and gave Ash the most affectionate hug she was able to. Words couldn't even describe how happy she was. Tomorrow was certain to be a day the two weren't ever going to forget. It would be their first date. Chapter 35, The Fuchsia Festival. Needless to say, Brock, Misty, Pikachu, and Cubone were ecstatic to hear Ash had actually asked Serena on a date. They spent the rest of the day bombarding them with questions about what they were going to do and the like. Ash and Serena were extremely embarrassed about the huge amount of attention they were getting from their friends and Pokemon, but what Brock and Misty asked made sense. What would they do together on their date tomorrow? Misty had suggested a nice, romantic dinner at Fuchsia City's finest restaurant. It would be dinner by candlelight while someone played a violin over their table. Ash had to bring Misty back to reality that he and Serena were only preteens, and not even aspiring trainers could afford a date like that. They didn't want to ask their parents for money, either. Unless it was an emergency. Brock's idea wasn't much better. He suggested that they see a movie together, which wasn't that bad. It was what he said they should do while watching the movie. He told them Ash should put his arm around Serena while she could lean on his shoulder. It would be a cute suggestion. It was then Brock got a goofy expression on his face and said they would lean in and kiss for the rest of the movie, which made Ash and Serena's faces turn the color of a deep red apple while Cubone and Pikachu got uncomfortable looks on their faces. Misty had whacked Brock on the back of his head and told him that he was being ridiculous and keep it G-rated. With none of their friends' suggestions quite hitting the mark on what they could do, Ash and Serena were left on their own to decide. They figured the best way to go about doing this was to make it relatively simple. Nothing too fancy, but not too insignificant. Also, there was a nice zoo in Fuchsia City that they could visit together. They also learned there was the Pokemon Festival tomorrow night, where breeders and trainers around the world gathered for a night of fun. There would be Pokemon salon booths, dancing, and other fun. Activities. Ash and Serena figured they could spend the day together at the zoo while their Pokemon could play at the daycare center. Then they could pick up their Pokemon that evening before heading over to the festival where they could all enjoy it together. It sounded like a plan. Nighttime had since fallen, and the group was going to spend the night at the Pokemon Center. Serena was extremely eager to call her mother on the video phone to tell her that she was finally going on a date with Ash. She suggested Ash do the same thing before she hurriedly went over to the video phone and dialed the number to her house. She really hoped her mother wasn't busy. Serena grinned broadly once she heard her mother pick up on the other end. Gabina residence. Who is speaking? Grace asked from the other end. Mom. It's me. Guess what? Serena exclaimed, cutting to the chase. Serena. Hello. What is it? Grace asked curiously as her face appeared on the screen. Ash and I are going on a date. Serena squealed with delight. Oh, Serena. That's such wonderful news. I knew you could do it. Grace said happily. Knew she could do it? What does she mean by that? Ash thought with confusion as he watched from behind Serena. I know. Ash and I are going to the Fuchsia City Zoo tomorrow during the day and attending the Pokemon Festival that night together. Serena continued to speak cheerfully. That sounds like a good idea. You two will have so much fun. Grace approved. I know. Serena smiled. Cubone. Cubone suddenly cried as it appeared in front of Serena's face. Oh my! Is that the Cubone I've heard about? Grace asked with a surprised look. It is. Mom, meet Cubone. Ash and I are taking care of it and helping to raise it since it is still too young to battle, Serena introduced. Well, hello, there. Grace smiled as she gave the Cubone a friendly smile and wave. Cubone bone. It answered as it waved at Grace excitedly. Oh. That's right. Serena, your 11th birthday is coming up in a few weeks. Have you thought about what you want to do yet? Grace inquired. It is coming up soon, Serena thought before answering, not yet, Mom. If I can't think of anything by the time it arrives, you can surprise me with something. Will do, Grace responded before looking at Ash to address him. Ash, you are a very fine young man. I know you will treat Serena right on your date tomorrow. I know I can trust you, she said to him. No problem, Mrs. Gabina. We'll have a lot of fun. Ash told her with a thumb up. Grace nodded before turning back to Serena. Well, good night, Serena. I love you. Let me know how it turns out. I will, Mom. Love you, too. Serena smiled before the video phone shut off. Well, I guess I better go ahead and tell my mom, Ash said as Serena got up from the seat. He then sat down on the chair to be more comfortable. If he recalled correctly, his mother was staying at the Hot Springs Resort on Cinnabar Island. He didn't know the number, but a quick search from his Poke Gear fixed that problem. They were so convenient. Once Ash got the number, he dialed it to the front desk of the resort while Pikachu hopped on his shoulder so it could see Delia, also. Good evening. Hot Springs Resort. May I help you? The desk clerk asked. Yes, ma'am. I was hoping you could transfer to the room Delia Ketchum is staying in right now, Ash requested. Of course. Hold on one moment, please. I'll transfer you, the clerk replied before Ash heard the call go on hold. Ash realized that this was the first time he would be talking to his mom since he sent her on vacation. He really hoped she was doing well and was safe so far. He didn't want to call her too much on her vacation, otherwise she might worry again. He was convincing himself that Delia was fine. Cinnabar Island was a tourist trap, and there was no way Team Rocket would try anything in an area so public, right? Heh, Well, that theory was immediately shot to the ground when he remembered they took over Sylph Company in broad daylight. Ash soon heard the phone ringing to what he presumed Delia's hotel room was and held his breath. He was calling late, so she should be done with her activities through the day. Pikachu hopped on his shoulder so it could look at Delia from the small picture on the poke gear, too. Hello. Delia answered the call from the other end. Hi, Mom. Ash said excitedly. Ash. He heard his mother cry before her face appeared on the screen. I'm so happy to hear from you. Pika Pie. Pikachu smiled as it waved at Delia. Hello to you, too, Pikachu. Delia greeted with a smile before waving back at the rodent. How's Cinnabar Island been so far? Ash asked curiously. A harmless question on the outside, but his real motive was making sure she didn't notice anything strange. It's been wonderful, Ash. Delia answered. I haven't such a relaxing time since I had you. That was so nice what you did for me. You are a wonderful son. Thanks, Mom, Ash replied. If only she knew the real reason for the vacation. He decided not to push the matter further about asking how she was lest she becomes worried. His mom said she was fine and didn't act like anything was out of the ordinary, and that was good enough for him. He might as well move on to the other reason he called her. Anyway, Mom, I have something to tell you, Ash began. Oh. Delia asked as she gave her son a curious look. Yeah. Serena and I are going on a date, Ash told her nervously. Oh. My little Ashie. That's so wonderful. Your first date with a girl. Delia squealed. Come on, Mom, Ash said as he turned red from embarrassment. You're growing up so fast. Delia continued as tears came to her eyes. Mom, Ash trailed. Now Ash. I want you to be a perfect gentleman to Serena on your date. She is a very sweet girl, and it won't do if you don't be respectful, Delia told him seriously. Don't worry, Mom. I will make sure to, Ash reassured. And make sure to wear clean clothes and you know what's, Delia added as Ash fell over off of his chair in embarrassment. Serena giggled lightly as she knew how Delia was while Brock and Misty raised their eyebrows at the comment. It seemed Ash's mother had a tendency to embarrass Ash, even if it was only motherly concern. They were still amused, however. Pikachu laughed openly while Cubone looked on in confusion. Same old Mom, Ash thought as he pulled himself back onto the chair before replying, Don't worry, Mom. I will, he told her. Oh. I just remembered. Your Uncle Riley learned I was on Cinnabar Island, and he invited me to his house tomorrow. Delia spoke up. Really? Ash asked. That's right. Sabrina's father in Saffron City mentioned that Riley was living on Cinnabar Island right now. He was supposed to pay Riley a visit once he got there. He then decided to tell his mom, also, but not the reason he was visiting. Hey, Mom. I'm going to be coming to Cinnabar Island pretty soon for one of the badges I need to collect. Would you mind telling Riley that I'll be coming, as well? I'd like to see him, too. I'll let him know. He hasn't seen you in over a year. I bet he'll be happy to learn his nephew is coming, Delia smiled. Ash felt a huge wave of relief once he remembered that Riley was staying on Cinnabar Island right now. There was no way he would let anything happen to Delia while he was there. She really was safe on her vacation for right now. Anyway, Mom. That's what I called for. I won't keep you. You must be tired since it's so late, Ash smiled. Good night, son. I love you. You two will have such a great time, Delia waved with her free hand. I love you too, Mom. Good night, Ash answered before the screen went black and the phone was hung up. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of tired now, so I think I'm going to hit the sack for tonight, Brock spoke up while he stretched. Me, too, Misty said as she and Brock headed to their rooms. She wasn't tired like Brock. Rather, she just used that as an excuse to give Ash and Serena some alone time before they went to bed the night before their date. Serena and I will catch up in a bit, Ash called as they watched the two leave. After Brock and Misty were out of sight, the only ones left in the Pokemon Center lobby were Ash, Pikachu, Serena, and Cubone. They stood there quietly, not really being able to think of anything to say to each other. They were both excited yet pretty nervous about tomorrow. So, Serena, Ash started, trying to break the silence. So, Ash, Serena copied. I'm really happy for tomorrow. It's going to be a good day. I can feel it, Ash said. I know, Ash. I can't wait, Serena replied as she blushed. She didn't think she would be able to get any sleep tonight because of how excited she was. Chuyu, Pikachu said as it smiled at the two and gave them a thumbs up, Cubone copying its big brother's gesture. Thanks for the support, you two, Ash smiled before turning to Serena. He realized Brock and Misty went to bed on purpose to give Ash and Serena some time together, but he really couldn't think of anything. It was pretty embarrassing. Well, I guess we better get to bed. We don't want to oversleep and get a late start. That's right. Good night, Ash. I'll see you tomorrow, Serena replied, her voice filled with emotion. Yeah. You, too, Ash replied as they went their separate directions, Ash and Pikachu to one room while Serena and Cubone went the other way. Oh, my gosh. What should I wear? Serena cried frantically as she ran around her room at the Pokemon Center. She was extremely nervous about her date with Ash today. It was so strange. She had dreamed of this day ever since she met him at Pallet Town summer camp. Now that it was finally here, she was panicked. What if she and Ash couldn't find anything to talk about? What if something bad happened and she embarrassed herself completely? What if Ash didn't like the outfit she wore? Okay, maybe that last one was a little unlikely. This was Ash and he wouldn't really care what she wore, but she still wanted to look nice, which was how she was in her current predicament. Misty was sitting at the edge of her own bed watching Serena run back and forth with a frown on her face. She knew Serena had wanted to go out with Ash since they met and really wanted their date to go well. Cubone was following Serena around the room trying to keep up with her. Every time Serena would try on a different outfit, she would sigh and immediately throw it off, and Cubone would be there to catch it, even though half the time the item of clothing would completely cover it. I can't believe this, Serena shouted after she had exhausted all of her clothes. She had a huge passion for fashion. How could she not find one suitable piece of clothing that she liked? Serena, listen to me, Misty interrupted gently as she stood up from the bed and walked over to her. You will look lovely no matter what you wear. Even if you didn't wear something you liked, Ash will go out with you regardless. He isn't a shallow person like that. You have nothing to fear. Even so, Serena muttered as she looked at the pile of clothes scattered around the room, I don't know what to wear. Why don't you just wear what you usually wear? Misty suggested with a smile. Just try it. Serena stared at Misty with a look of surprise. Would that really work? Just wear her normal outfit? After much inner debate, she nodded and went into the bathroom with her typical clothing in her arms. A couple of minutes later, Serena emerged from the bathroom dressed in her usual black shirt with the red skirt. She didn't know if this was such a great idea. She felt so normal. She went over to the mirror and stood in front of it to look herself over, Misty and Cubone standing behind her to await her reaction. After checking herself, she realized that she did look rather nice. Not too fancy. Not too plain. Maybe Misty was right. Serena turned towards Misty and smiled. Thanks, Misty. I guess I'm just overthinking this. Misty returned the gesture. You're welcome. Remember, you still want to stand out, so let's try some makeup on you. Misty then went over to her backpack and pulled out a small purse before snapping it open and pulling out a few cosmetics. She then brought them over to Serena and began to work on her face. When I'm done with you, Ash is going to have his socks knocked off, she said. Ash was in the lobby of the Pokemon Center, twiddling with his thumbs nervously with Brock and Pikachu sitting next to him. He was in his normal clothes except his sleeveless jacket, Pokemon League hat, and fingerless gloves. Brock had told them they were too informal. Ash had never been on a date before. Sure, he had hung out several times before with Leaf or Serena, but never on an actual date. What was so different about this? Once Brock had quit joking with Ash, he told Ash the way to treat Serena was like a true gentleman. He spent the next hour showing Ash on ways to improve his manners, especially while eating. Okay, Ash. Remember, the napkin goes in your lap while you eat at all times. Chew with your mouth closed, and try to make less noise, Brock told Ash as they were practicing at a table in the Pokemon Center cafeteria. I don't know, Brock. This is how I've been eating ever since I was born. It's hard to break old habits, Ash replied as he scratched his head. Come on, Ash. Surely you can improve your table manners for at least one night. Just look at Pikachu, Brock said as he pointed to the rodent on the other side of the table. Pikachu was hastily slurping a bottle of ketchup until it noticed the two humans were watching it. It then sweat dropped and let out nervous laugh that it was supposed to be setting an example. It then slowly poured the ketchup from the bottle onto a small plate before grabbing a spoon with its pinky outstretched. It then brought the spoonful of ketchup to its mouth and before smiling and letting out a satisfied cha. Okay, maybe don't follow Pikachu's example, Brock muttered once he saw the Pokemon overdoing it. Anyway, I'm sure you will be fine. Okay. I can do this, Ash thought. It's Serena. She's just my best friend. That was all she was, right? He didn't know. His thoughts were interrupted when he saw Misty step around the corner of the nearby hallway. Ash, Serena is now ready for your date, Misty announced as she moved her arms towards the opening for a dramatic entrance. About 3 seconds later, Serena came around the corner, as well, and Ash's jaw dropped. Serena was in her normal clothes like he was, but there was something about her that seemed very magical. She had on makeup and her hair seemed styled slightly different today, like it was fluffier or neater, or just prettier. Whatever it was, Ash thought she looked gorgeous. He couldn't believe he was actually thinking like that about a girl right now. He didn't notice it, but his face was heating quite fast. Serena slowly approached Ash and blushed furiously. You look really handsome, Ash, she commented quietly, not that she didn't think he ever wasn't handsome. Yeah, you look handsome, too, Ash muttered before quickly correcting himself. I mean, you look very pretty. Serena smiled and turned even redder when Ash told her that. That was the first time Ash had ever said that about her. She didn't know why. She wasn't dressed any different. The only thing she had different was makeup on. Maybe the fact that they were on a date made Ash see her differently today. So, are you ready? Ash asked as he shook himself of his red face and held out his arm for Serena to take. Yes. I am, Serena replied as she looped her arm around Ash's before they headed to the door of the Pokemon Center, Pikachu and Cubone following him. Now you two have fun, you hear? Brock called after them with a wave and put his other arm around Misty. Make sure to tell us how it went. Brock, don't be nosy, Misty scolded slightly, but she knew she would want Serena to tell her the details later. Also, They grow up so fast. Brock cried as tears ran down his face. Misty just rolled her eyes at that. Ash and Serena were just stepping out the door of the Fuchsia City Pokemon daycare. The owners were a kind elderly couple who promised to take great care of them for the day. After seeing the massive play area inside and outside the daycare, the two knew their Pokemon would be in good hands, so they had no reason to worry. It was now time to begin their date. Well, Serena, it's almost 11 o'clock right now. The festival doesn't begin until 6 tonight. That means we have 7 hours to do almost anything. Should we start with the zoo? Ash asked. That sounds like a good idea, Ash, Serena smiled before going on their way. As they were walking, Serena decided she would try the thing she had wanted for a while now, to hold hands with Ash. He hadn't pulled away when they were in the snow cave. Maybe since they were on a date, he would be receptive to hand-holding now, also. She slowly began to inch her right hand to Ash's left hand. She then took a deep breath and grabbed a hold of it. Her cheeks immediately flushed, as well as Ash's. Okay, Ash. Serena is holding your hand. What should you do? Ash asked himself. Grab it back. Yeah. That sounds like a good idea. Ash then grabbed Serena's hand back to secure the hand holding. He then decided to interlock his fingers with Serena. Once he did so, he got a really tight feeling in his chest. Again. An older married couple was walking by Ash and Serena at that time and smiled at the scene. Ah, how cute, the woman said to her husband. Reminds me of us at their age. That comment didn't go unnoticed by Ash or Serena. Serena felt like her chest was going to explode at that comment. Is that going to be Ash and me in 60 years? She thought as she blushed even harder. Serena and me. Married? Ash thought in embarrassment. He remembered mentioning to the group a while back that he did plan on being married one day. Was his future wife? Really, Serena? Maybe it was best if he didn't think about that right now and focus on their date. That was pretty embarrassing. Ash and Serena were so lost in their thoughts that they didn't notice they had arrived at the Fuchsia City Zoo. The group had learned that the way the zoo worked here wasn't like where Pokemon were locked up in cages day after day. The zoo exclusively featured exotic Pokemon taken from the Safari Zone. Each Pokemon would be rotated daily in the pens that were lined up along the route, so the Pokemon were still free to roam yet never in captivity for more than one day. A young woman stood at the toll booth and smiled when she saw the two approach, looking deep in thought. Hello there, she greeted warmly, which snapped the two preteens' attention to her. Is it just you two today? Yes ma'am, Ash answered. Very well. It's $10 each for a child's ticket, she said. Luckily, Ash had managed to save up more than enough money for both him and Serena despite using most of it for his mother. He was only going to pay for himself, but Brock and Misty immediately scolded him and told him he should pay for Serena's ticket, also. It would be the gentleman thing to do. You didn't have to pay for me, Ash. I had $10 with me, Serena told him as he handed the ticket salesman a $20 bill. It's no problem, Serena. I want to pay for your ticket, Ash told her with a smile as he was given the two tickets. Come on. Let's go. Serena wasn't sure if Brock or Misty had a hand in telling Ash to pay for her, also, but she was happy, nonetheless. Ash was such a gentleman when he needed to be. Once again. It was just one of the many qualities she loved about him. As they entered the zoo, they saw a pen which housed a large, brown kangaroo-like Pokemon with a baby version of it in its pouch. It was playing different types of games with its baby and didn't seem to mind that it was in a pen for today. Cool. A Kangaskhan. Ash exclaimed as he and Serena scanned it with their Pokédexes. Kangaskhan. The parent Pokemon. They raise their young from their pouch. Its infant rarely ventures outside of it, said the Pokédexes. Kangaskhan is a normal type Pokémon. It would be nice to have one of those since I haven't caught a Pokémon of that type yet, Ash commented as they made their way over to the pen to look at it. Serena then noticed a small gumball machine that had poke food in it that had the words "Feed the baby Kangaskhan" on it. Hey, Ash. Look. Why don't we get some poke food so we can feed it? That could be fun. She suggested. Sounds good, Ash replied as he made his way over to the machine and put a quarter in it. He then turned the lever and about a handful of Pokemon food came out. Serena then took the poke food before going over to the pen and smiling at the Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan. I have some food for your baby to eat, she called. Kangaskhan looked over at Serena from what it was doing and smiled. It then walked over to the edge of pen while Serena stuck her hands through the bars. The baby. Kangaskhan looked at the food in Serena's hand before glancing at its mommy to make sure it was okay. Upon seeing the mother's signal, the baby Kangaskhan reached out from its pouch and grabbed a piece of the Pokemon food and took a small bite. It smiled at the taste and finished off the rest of the morsel. It then began to quickly eat right out Serena's hands, causing her to laugh. Ha 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 ha. That tickles, Kangaskhan. Serena smiled as Ash watched in amusement. Behind them, a certain purple-haired boy happened to be walking by at the moment. He didn't have any interest in interacting with the Pokemon here. He was just at the zoo to see the various Pokemon that would be available in the Safari Zone before he went. Upon seeing Ash and Serena, he immediately frowned and stuffed his hands in his pockets. Before turning to go in the opposite direction without a word. He was completely unnoticed by the two as their backs were turned. He couldn't believe he had run into them. Particularly Ash, again. He figured he would go challenge the Fuchsia City gym leader before heading to the Safari Zone. He should have known running into Ash again was inevitable, whether he liked it or not. How do you suppose Ash and Serena are faring on their date? Misty asked as she and Brock walked out of small cafe. They had just eaten lunch together. Beats me, but we did all we could to ensure they were ready. We just have to trust in them, Brock replied as he appeared in thought. I really hope Ash realizes Serena's feelings for him soon. Even though he's Ash, he can't be oblivious of them forever, Misty said. Yeah, Brock agreed. It was then Brock noticed the most beautiful girl in the world, according to him, passing by about 30 feet in front of them. She had long, teal hair, brown eyes, and a pale lavender shirt and pants. A Vulpix was walking by her side. Brock immediately froze in his tracks as he felt his face heat up. Misty continued on until she noticed that Brock wasn't beside her anymore. Brock, what's up? She asked as she turned to face him. I just saw the girl of my dreams, Brock muttered in a goofy voice. The girl of your dreams. So what else is new? Misty scoffed. No. Really? The girl that just passed looked like the famous Pokemon breeder and beautician, Susie. Brock exclaimed. Susie? I've never heard of her, Misty said as he put her finger to her chin in thought. How could you not? She's famous across the world. I've always wanted to study as her pupil. She's the absolute best. Brock continued. Are you really sure that it's her? Why would she be casually passing by in Fuchsia City? Misty asked skeptically. I'm positive it's her. I've got to meet her. Brock yelled as he ran off in the direction where the girl went. Unfortunately, as Brock looked around, he didn't see any sign of her. He hung his head. Maybe Misty was right. It had just been his imagination, after all. Studying under such a beautiful and talented Pokemon breeder like Susie seemed like it could only be a pipe dream for him. Ash and Serena had since moved on from the Kangaskhan pen and moved onto a pen that had a lime-colored praying mantis-like Pokemon with a reptilian head and sharp blades in place of its forearms. Wow! That must be a Scyther, Ash muttered as he and Serena scanned it. Scyther. The mantis Pokemon. Scyther have ninja-like movements and speed and easily catches prey with its sharp scythes, said the Pokédexes. I think it looks kind of scary, Serena commented as she grabbed Ash's arm for support. It's fine, Serena. The Scyther is behind the cage. There is no way it can harm us right now, Ash said reassuringly as he stood close to the cage. Upon hearing Ash's comment, the Scyther raised its eyes in an "oh really?" manner. It then reached out with one of its long blade-like arms and stuck it through the bars on the cage. It then slowly swiped at Ash and made a small tear across his clothing to taunt him. Ash and Serena's sweat dropped after that. On second thought, maybe we shouldn't stand too close to the Scyther, after all, Ash said nervously as he moved away quickly, taking Serena with him. The Scyther was smirking at him as they left. No person was going to insult its pride like that. Next in line for the cages was a Tauros. Unlike the Kangaskhan and Scyther, the Tauros was in a much larger pen. This was probably in part due to how much a Tauros loves to move around and exercise. Oh, wow! It's a Tauros. Ash smiled as he and Serena used their Pokédexes once more to scan it. Tauros, the wild bull Pokemon. Tauros are rowdy Pokemon with a lot of stamina. Once it starts running, it won't stop until it hits something, the Pokédexes informed. That Tauros sure looks powerful, Serena commented as they watched the Tauros run around the cage and buck occasionally. A Tauros would make a great member to my team, Ash said. I would no doubt get my exercise in trying to keep up with it. Could you imagine trying to own a whole herd of Tauros? Serena asked with a smile. How would you keep up with them? You would always have a stampede to deal with. Ha 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 ha, yeah. Owning almost 30 Tauros would be a little over the top. Ash laughed. I don't know how I would be able to use them all equally. Anyways, that settles it. I'm definitely going to shoot to catch a Tauros in the Safari Zone once we check it out. I have yet owned a normal type Pokemon, so a Tauros would be perfect. Since you are so energetic, another energetic Pokemon would suit you well, Serena agreed as she looked over in the cage next to Tauros before adding, I guess energetic can't be said about the Snorlax. Ash looked over to where she was looking and saw what looked like an enormous fat, dark blue cat-like Pokemon. It was on its back with its short arms and legs spread out, fast asleep. Oh yeah, a Snorlax, Ash realized as they scanned it. Snorlax, the sleeping Pokemon. Snorlax are incredible lazy and does nothing but eat and sleep. As it grows larger, it becomes even more slothful, said the Pokédexes. Yeah. This Snorlax doesn't look like it's going to wake up anytime soon, Ash mumbled as he and Serena watched Snorlax and listened to its heavy breathing. With as large as it is, I wonder how much a Snorlax can eat, Serena wondered. A Snorlax is able to consume over 900 pounds of food at one sitting, the Pokédexes piped up. Whoa! 900 pounds! Ash and Serena gasped at the same time. Still, I bet you a Snorlax is a pretty powerful Pokemon once it is awake. I wouldn't want to be in the way of a hungry Snorlax, said Ash. No kidding, Serena agreed. Serena and Ash spent the rest of the time at the zoo visiting a few of the other types of Pokemon that were available or viewing, most of which they had already seen. A few consisted of an Exeggcute, a male and female Nidoran, a Doduo, and a Pinsir. Ash, who knew Serena loved sweets, happily bought her some cotton candy which she loved. She even let Ash have a few bites, who happily obliged. They were having such a good time with each other that they didn't seem to notice all of the small smiles adults were giving them. They all thought the two looked so good together. Serena and Ash soon got a little tired from walking around all day and sat down on a nearby bench to rest. "Are you having a good time so far, Serena?" Ash asked as he stretched his legs out. "I'm having a wonderful time with you, Ash." "I'm really glad we are doing this," Serena replied sincerely. Ash nodded his head in response. The two sat in silence for a moment before Serena decided to ask something pretty risky. She had become incredibly bold since their time in the blizzard. "So Ash? I'm really glad you asked me on a date, but I'm curious. What made you want to ask me?" she asked. It surely couldn't have just been because he felt bad about Janine. At least, she hoped it wasn't. "You know, it's really strange," Ash answered. "I mean, I definitely wanted to see you smile again after what I did, and asking you out was definitely the right answer." "So that's the only reason?" Serena asked with a somewhat hurt expression. "Of course not," Ash quickly said as he realized it came out the wrong way. "I'm glad I asked you out. I've been having these really strange feelings around you lately, and I don't know what they are. It seems like the only way to satisfy them is when I'm with you. Even then, the feelings go away, but they seem to intensify the next time I'm with you. I really like spending all this time with you." Serena smiled brightly at Ash's response. She had a really good idea what those feelings Ash felt around her. She would have liked nothing more than to tell Ash what he felt around her, but it would be best if he figured it out himself. That is what Leaf and Misty said the best would be. Pushing away her eagerness of Ash seeming to really like her, Serena instead leaned her head on Ash's shoulder. "I really enjoy spending time with you, too, Ash. I really do," she said with a contented sigh. It was then they saw time had passed incredibly quickly at the Pokémon Zoo, and before Ash and Serena knew it, it was already after 5 o'clock. They would have to hurry up and leave to get their Pokémon from the daycare if they were able to make it to the festival in time. "How did you like the zoo, Serena?" Ash asked as they walked through the exit gate. "I had a lot of fun. There were so many neat and interesting Pokémon there," Serena answered with a smile. "Glad to hear it," Ash said. "Well, there is still more fun to be had. I bet we will have a great time at the festival." "Yep," Serena replied with a blush. She didn't exactly know what the festival had in store for them. She had heard there were things from games to dances. She remembered how she and Ash had their first slow dance to Butterfree's singing a couple of months ago. If given the opportunity, would she go a little further than she did then? Serena blushed even harder at the thought of how romantic that sounded. She didn't even realize she had stopped walking in her daze. "Hey, Serena. Are you coming?" Ash called. Serena snapped out of her daze before giving Ash a big smile. "Of course," she replied before running up to Ash and looping her left arm around his right. Then together, they began the trek to the daycare center to get their Pokémon. It was now 6 o'clock in the evening, and the festival had just started. Everyone was eager to try everything there and have a great time. Well, almost everyone was enjoying themselves, except a certain Pokémon breeder. "Suyuazi," Brock mumbled as he shuffled along the ground through the walkways. "Brock, you've been moping about that since this afternoon. Isn't it time that you got over it? You don't know if that was even her." Misty cried out, tired of his sullen attitude. "If only you knew what meeting Susie would mean to me, Misty," Brock muttered with a sigh. "What's so great about Susie, anyway?" Misty scoffed, clearly not knowing what she said. "What?" Brock cried as he looked up at Misty in anger. "How dare you?" He then began to go on a rant. The sensational Susie has been given the Award of Excellence at the World Pokémon Breeders' Competition for 3 consecutive years. Also, the Readers of Pokemon Friends magazine has named her the most popular Pokemon breeder for 4 years running, and her website records over 10,000 hits per day. Okay Brock. I get it. I understand that the Susie person is probably a great Pokemon breeder, but there are several other Pokemon breeders here tonight, also. You could still learn a thing or two from them, Misty said, trying to cheer him up. They don't have the magical touch that Susie does, Brock countered. Misty wasn't quite sure what he meant by that, so she just let out a sigh until she spotted a Pokemon breeder booth not far away. The girl was busy massaging a Chansey with a gentle smile on her face. A Vulpix was by her side, watching curiously. Misty tugged on Brock's arm to get his attention. Hey, Brock. That Pokemon breeder over there looks really nice and good at her job. Let's try going to her, Misty suggested as she pointed in that direction. Brock slowly looked up and followed her gaze to where she was pointing, and it felt like his heart stopped. Her beautiful teal hair. Her lovely brown eyes. The most wonderful smile in the world. It's Susie. Brock yelled as he ran off and made a beeline straight for the booth that Misty had mentioned. So that's Susie, Misty wondered aloud. She didn't even know it when she made the suggestion. Maybe Brock could catch a break, after all. Brock stopped just behind the only person at the booth at the moment and eagerly awaited his chance to meet Susie. He had a dreamy expression on his face the entire time. He was finally going to meet Susie, his idol. His role model. He was brimming with excitement. Misty had walked up behind him and watched Susie give the massage carefully. It seemed she had a very gentle touch. There you are. You are as good as new, Susie said with smile as she finished. Her voice was like music to Brock's ears. The Chansey leaped off the table it was getting the massage on and walked over to a nearby mirror. It felt fully relaxed and let out a happy cry of Chansey. Once it was satisfied. That was really great. Thank you, Susie, the man who owned the Chansey said. It wasn't a problem at all. I really love my work, Susie replied. See you later, the man said as he walked off with his Chansey. Susie then turned in Brock's direction and gave him a warm smile. Hello there. May I help you? She asked. Brock just stood there, completely transfixed. Susie was actually talking to him. He had been waiting for this moment for at least a few years now. Misty watched him from the side. Worriedly. Was he just going to stand there all night or actually say something to Susie? After what seemed like an eternity to Brock, he finally mustered up his courage. He hurried over to Susie and placed his hands firmly on the front table of her booth and looked her square in the eye. Susie. I want to breed with you. Brock yelled enthusiastically. What? I am sorry. Susie exclaimed in a surprised tone. Brock. Misty muttered as she face-palmed. Wait. That came out totally wrong. I meant, I want to breed like you. Brock yelled again. You want to, what? Susie stuttered in a freaked-out tone. Wait. That came out wrong, also. Brock cried. You're making yourself look like an idiot. He thought. Brock, just relax, Misty told him. Brock took a deep breath and tried again. He was still beet red. He tried to be very careful with his wording. Susie, my name is Brock, and I am a Pokemon breeder, too. I have admired how wonderful your methods are for a very long time. I would really love it if you would take me on as your pupil so I can be as great a breeder as you, and your Vulpix is nice. Please say yes. He finished. Oh, well, it is very nice to meet you, Brock. I'm flattered that I am your role model, Susie answered. You really want to be her pupil, Brock? Misty asked in a surprised tone. Of course. Brock cried with a still red face. That's very nice, Brock. However, I am always traveling and don't have time to take on pupils, Susie said apologetically. You don't. Brock muttered with a crestfallen expression. It felt like his dream was completely shattered. She said no. That's pretty Vulpix, Misty commented as she looked over the red six-tailed fox Pokemon. I wonder if it has won any awards. It has. Brock suddenly shouted again as he went over to it, failing grasp the reason Susie couldn't be his teacher. Notice how lovely its coat is and the beautiful six tails it has. It's a fabulous Pokemon. I see, Misty muttered before she looked her right and saw Serena and Ash approaching from a distance. She nudged Brock in the side to get his attention. Hey Brock. Serena and Ash are coming. We don't want to interrupt their date. Let's get out of here. Oh, right, Brock said, clearly disappointed his meeting with Susie was cut short. It was lovely to meet you, Susie. We'll continue this conversation later. Bye. The two then dashed off before they were in eyesight of Serena and Ash. It was nice to meet you two, as well. Susie called after them, but all that was left was a dust cloud. It was then Ash and Serena were passing by Susie's booth. Serena stopped him and pointed to it. Oh, look, Ash. It's a Pokemon breeder's booth. Let's have her look over some of our Pokemon. She suggested. The two then made their way over to Susie, who greeted them with another warm smile. Hello. My name is Susie. Thank you for stopping by. What is it I can do for you? She introduced. Yes, ma'am. My name is Ash Ketchum and this is Serena Gabina. It says here that you offer massages for Pokemon. Would you mind giving my buddy, Pikachu, one? Ash asked, as he motioned to the rodent on his shoulder. I bet my Eevee would love one, too. It does need to relax every once in a while with all the energy it has, Serena chimed in. I would be glad to, Susie replied pleasantly with a nod. Ash then set his rodent down on the table while Serena released her Eevee from its Pokeball. Susie inspected the Pokemon briefly before giving her verdict. Ash, your Pikachu has an exceptionally shiny coat, and Serena, your Eevee is very clean and healthy for such a playful Pokemon, Susie reported. Thanks, Ash replied. We owe a lot of it to our friend, Brock. He is a Pokemon breeder like you and is really good at what he does. Brock, Susie muttered thoughtfully, recalling a Pokemon breeder she met just a few minutes ago with the same name. Pikachu then lay down on the table while Susie placed her hands directly on Pikachu's cheeks. Now remember, Ash. A Pikachu's electrical sacs are stored in its cheeks. Because it uses them so much, its cheeks can become sore after a tough battle. A good massage on them is all a Pikachu needs to feel refreshed, Susie informed. She then began to rub her hands gently across Pikachu's cheeks, ending just below its neck and repeating the process. Chea, Pikachu cooed in happiness. Are you enjoying it, Pikachu? Ash asked with a smile as he watched, receiving a nod from his partner. Would you like to give it a try, Ash? Susie asked as she looked over at him. Sure. Ash replied as he went over to where Susie was standing, Serena looking on with a smile. Okay, Ash. Remember to use gentle motions on Pikachu. Don't be too light, but don't be too firm either, Susie told him. Ash muttered as he put his hands on Pikachu's cheeks and began to rub them. Like this. Yes. That's very good. Susie praised. How does that feel, Pikachu? Ash asked his buddy. Pikachu, Pikachu replied in a completely relaxed tone. Susie then went over to Serena's Eevee. As for your Eevee, Serena, an Eevee's coat is very smooth and can get dirty easily, especially with how energetic you said yours was. I recommend that you use a soft brush and brush it in straight lines across Eevee. This will help keep its coat clean and not get tangled. Okay, Serena replied as she watched Susie's example. After brushing Evie for a couple of minutes, Susie let Serena try. Serena took the brush from Susie's hand and began to carefully brush Evie across its fur, trying to be as gentle as possible. To her relief, Evie really seemed to be enjoying it. Cubone had been watching the entire time before it decided it would try its hand at massaging Evie like Serena was doing. It went over and began to rub Evie in what assumed was a gentle manner. The only problem was Cubone's hands were really rough and the bone it was always holding made things worse. Evie cringed every time Cubone moved its hands across its back. Upon seeing this, Serena picked Cubone up with her free hand before it accidentally injured Evie. "Why don't you just leave this to me, Cubone?" Serena suggested as she continued to brush Evie. "Bone," Cubone pouted. "You're both doing a great job," Susie praised as she watched the two trainers. "Did you hear that, Evie? Do you think I'm doing well, also?" Serena asked. "Vivi." Evie cried happily before it tackled Serena. It still hasn't seemed to have gotten over that habit. "Oh, my." Susie gasped as she watched the scene. Vulpix looked on in confusion. He. "I take that as a yes," Serena muttered from the ground. "Attention, everyone. The dance floor is now open in the city square for anyone who wishes to dance," a voice said over the intercom. "Oh, Ash. There's dancing. We should go do that." "The last time we danced was to Butterfree's song," Serena suggested. "That sounds like fun. You know I always love a good dance." Ash agreed as he finished massaging Pikachu. The yellow rodent then hopped onto its usual place on Ash's shoulder. "Would you like to dance, Evie and Cubone?" "That sounds like something you two would like," Serena told them. "V." Evie smiled as it hopped up and down. Bone. Cubone replied while nodding. "It was very nice to meet all of you," Susie smiled. "I will be staying at the Fuchsia City Pokemon Center for the next 2 days, so feel free to come see me if you want any more tips." "We will do that." "Thank you, Susie," Ash replied as they left. Unbeknownst to them, Brock and Misty were watching from behind a stall several yards away. Well, mainly Brock was just waiting for them to leave so he could continue to talk to Susie, and Misty was there because she simply had nothing better to do at the moment. "They're leaving to go dance. Now is my chance to once again ask Susie to take me as her pupil," Brock whispered. "Brock, she already told you she doesn't take on pupils because she never has time," Misty reminded. "I can still get to know her," Brock responded. "Whatever," Misty said while rolling her eyes. "I'm going to head over to the dance floor to see if there is a song playing that I like." "Catch you later, Misty," Brock replied with a small wave as he continued to watch Susie. He couldn't help but feel like he was spying on her. He knew it was wrong, but he just didn't know what to say to her. He always went completely crazy when it came to beautiful girls, and he couldn't control himself. Everyone always thought he was a likable guy when he was just being himself. Maybe that was the key to get a girl's attention. Finally mustering all of his courage, and putting on a pleasant, rather than a goofy expression, Brock made his way back over to Susie. "Susie," Brock greeted with a wave as he went over to her, trying his best to not go gaga. Her hair seemed to sway magically as turned back towards him. "Oh, hello again, Brock," she said pleasantly. Brock instantly turned red at her lovely voice, but shook it away. "Susie, being a fellow breeder, I was wondering if you could share some tips with me," Brock suggested. "I would love to, Brock," Susie smiled. Brock almost melted under her smile. Susie then added as an afterthought, "You know, just a short while ago, I met a boy named Ash and a girl named Serena who said they were friends with a Pokemon breeder named Brock. Were they referring to you?" Haha. They were actually, Brock responded. I actually travel around with them. Their Pokemon are in excellent shape. They said they owed it all to you. You must be an exceptional Pokemon breeder, Susie commented. Yeah, Brock said as he rubbed the back of his head. I actually make special types of poke food for each of their Pokemon. Every one of them has their own taste. Oh. In that case, would you let my Vulpix have a sample of your Pokemon food? Everything I give it seems to only be mediocre, Susie said while gesturing to the fox Pokemon. A Vulpix, Brock muttered as he thought about a flavor that a Vulpix might like, probably something hot since Vulpix was a fire type. I've got it! Brock cried as he took his backpack off of his back and set it down on the table where Vulpix was. The fire type looked on in interest. Here, Vulpix. Try this, Brock suggested as he held out some Pokemon food and set it down on the table. Vulpix went over to the small batch of Pokemon food and gave it a curious sniff. Vulpix! It cried with delight as it began to happily eat the food. I'm very impressed, Brock. Susie praised. Your cooking is one of the few who Vulpix even likes. Thank you, Vulpix. Brock cried. I'm not worthy. I have an idea, Brock, Susie suggested. Since I will be in Fuchsia City tomorrow, as well, we should have breakfast together tomorrow at the Pokemon Center. We can go over tips for Pokemon breeding. I bet we could learn a lot from each other. You really? Brock stuttered. He couldn't believe his beautiful role model was actually asking him to breakfast. He was actually going to learn a bit from Susie, the world's greatest Pokemon breeder. He was ecstatic, to say the least. Yes, Susie confirmed. That's a wonderful idea. Brock exclaimed. I would love to study you. I mean study with you. Unable to contain himself anymore, Brock fainted. Oh, my, Susie gasped as she covered her mouth once she saw Brock hit the ground. Vulpix questioned as it watched, also. It thought Brock was a pretty interesting human. His cooking was good, also. Ash and Serena were having a blast dancing with each other right now. There had been many styles of music playing right now. It seemed that Fuchsia City was known for its great music, as well. The song currently playing was a fast-paced one, so everyone was free to dance how they saw fit. There were many people crowded into the square, but Ash and Serena had found a nice spot in the middle left part of the square. Pikachu, Cubone, and Eevee were nearby, dancing together. How are you holding up, Serena? You tired yet? Ash asked as they danced. Not at all. How about you? Serena answered. Never. Ash replied. There was no tension or nervousness at all between the two right now. It was just like the fun dances they would have when they were younger in Pallet Town. Ash thought his date with Serena was going superb. It really had been a good idea. He was worried he would be extremely nervous and be unable to say or do anything, but he learned quickly that the best thing was to just be himself. He was sure Serena preferred it that way, too. It was then the music suddenly changed. It slowed down considerably as a voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to enter our more romantic part of the evening. So find yourself a partner and enjoy the music, the voice announced. Serena and Ash stared at each other and blushed heavily. They still remembered when they had danced slowly to the Butterfree singing a while back. That had been their first slow dance. The difference here was this was an actual slow song where they were expected to dance slowly with one another. Ash gulped while Serena was watching him expectantly. He could do this. Taking a deep breath, Ash went over to her and held out his hand like last time, but tried to sound less nervous. Serena, may I have this dance? He asked in a gentlemanly tone as he held his hand out. Of course, I would love to, Ash, Serena replied as she took his hand. She was beaming on the inside. Ash began racking his brain to that time and how he was supposed to hold on to Serena. He slowly put his hand on Serena's back, and they began to move back and forth. He was still a little clumsy but much better than last time. After about 30 seconds, Ash had once again gotten the hang of it once more. It was almost like he was a natural. You're getting better, Ash, Serena smiled as they took a step to their left. Ha ha ha, yeah. I'm not that good, Ash trailed as he turned red from embarrassment. Don't say that, Ash. You are doing wonderful. Even if you weren't a good dancer, that wouldn't matter to me. The only thing that matters is who I'm dancing with, and that's you. Serena told him. Once more, Ash was again at a loss for words. He again felt that really tight feeling in his chest once he heard Serena say that. Why was he always feeling this way around her? Now, Serena was really enjoying the slow dance, as well. As she danced with him, she thought about all the things her fellow girls had told her. They were always saying how Ash had suppressed feeling for her but just didn't realize it. Since he turned 11, though, slowly but surely, he seemed to be returning those feelings to her. She was delighted. He was always doing more things with her now. He always wanted to be near her. Maybe he really did like her back. She unknowingly tightened her grip around Ash, causing him to blush. They danced in silence for a moment before Serena broke it. Hey, Ash, she asked, still a little shyly. Since we are on a date, I remember you saying a while back that you planned on getting married one day. Out of curiosity, what type of girl would you want to spend the rest of your life with? My dream girl? Ash asked in a surprised tone before seeming to go into deep thought. Let's see. She would have to be one of the sweetest girls in existence. She would also have to be smart, funny, and a good listener. She would need to be someone I can always count on and who will always be there for me. I hope to be that kind of husband, also. I see, Serena replied with a heavy blush. Wait. Did I just perfectly describe Serena when I was telling her what my dream girl was like? Ash thought before adding. Of course. I'm only 11 right now, so I don't plan on getting married for a while. My tastes may change by then. Yes. Of course they might, Serena replied before thinking to herself. I wonder if Ash was thinking of me when he was describing his dream girl. She didn't realize how close to the mark she really was. I'm having such a good time, Ash, she finally told him. I am going to remember this night forever. Really? Forever? Ash asked, surprised. Absolutely, Serena replied. This really means a lot to me. Oh, Ash replied as he blushed. He then smiled. It means a lot to me too, Serena. Serena smiled broadly once Ash said that. After hearing Ash say those words so easily, Serena decided to do something she was too shy to do the last time they had slow danced. She slowly began to lean her head down. Closer and closer she got until her head was finally resting on Ash's shoulder. To her great fortune, he didn't pull away. Ash, she muttered in content. Ash blushed heavily and tried not to let out a gasp. Serena was actually leaning her head on his shoulder while dancing. It felt so strange yet comforting, relaxing, to have Serena resting her head on his shoulder. He gave her another one of his smiles that Serena loved. She looked up and smiled back before returning her head to its place on his shoulder. Serena felt extremely safe right now with Ash holding onto her right now, like nothing could harm her. Ash had always just had that effect on her. It was as if nothing else mattered at the moment except them dancing together. The stress of trying to be a good trainer, their fights with Team Rocket, all of that felt so small now and didn't matter. Serena once more breathed a contented sigh before she closed her eyes. She felt like she could be in this position forever. Unbeknownst to her, Ash had closed his eyes, too. It was then they became completely into the moment, and their movements suddenly became very natural. Beside Ash and Serena, Pikachu had asked Serena's Eevee to dance, which the evolution Pokemon happily agreed to. Pikachu was holding onto Eevee's forelegs while it stood on its hind legs to be more eye level with Pikachu. Cubone stood watching with a sad look on its face. Upon seeing its expression, Big Brother Pikachu smiled and allowed it join in as well. While Ash and Serena were dancing, Misty was sitting on a bench a short distance away, watching them with a somewhat longing expression. She couldn't help but feel slightly jealous of Ash and Serena's relationship at the moment. The two were always extremely close, and they were always there to support each other. Misty wished there was some boy in her life as well whom was interested in her. Misty let out a huge sigh and rested her face on her hand. What guy could ever fall in love with me? She said to herself. I'm just an extremely crabby tomboy. As if an answer to her prayers, there was a boy that came up to her, but Misty hardly took notice until he spoke. Hello there, said the boy. What's a nice girl like you doing by herself? Misty looked up to see whom was addressing her. It was a boy who appeared a couple of years older than her. He had really dark red hair as contrast to Misty's bright red hair and wearing formal clothing. He had a younger girl next to him that was presumably his sister considering they looked alike. Misty supposed he was rather handsome. Oh, I'm fine, Misty said. I'm just by myself right now. My friends are either dancing or talking with other people right now. May I ask your name? The boy asked. I'm Misty Waterflower, Misty responded half-heartedly. That's a very beautiful name, the boy complimented. That took Misty by surprise and got her attention. No one had ever said she had a lovely name before. She looked back up at the boy and gave him an interested expression. My name is Rudy, the boy introduced, and this is my little sister Marie. Hi. The little girl said in a bubbly tone. It's nice to meet you too, Misty replied with a smile. Where are you from? We are actually visiting from the Orange Islands right now, specifically Trovita Island. You see, my little sister loves this Pokemon festival a lot and begs me to take her every year, the boy explained. Oh wow. You come all the way from the Orange Islands? Misty exclaimed. Ha ha ha. We do. From the way you're surprised, I take it you are pretty local, the boy guessed. Yeah. I'm from Cerulean City. I am actually one of the Sensational Sisters and one of the gym leaders, Misty said. Oh, cool. You are one of the Sensational Sisters? I love how graceful and beautiful they are. I watch your shows all the time on TV. I want to be just like you when I'm older. Marie beamed. Well, isn't that nice? Misty said as she smiled at the girl. I have no doubt that you have what it takes to become one. Hooray! The girl cheered. A sensational sister actually complimented me. So you are a gym leader of Kanto? Rudy echoed. I'm actually a member of the Orange Crew on the Orange Islands, so I'm sort of like a gym leader myself. That's so cool. It looks like we have something in common. Misty realized. Hey, Misty. Since you are by yourself right now and have no one to dance with, would you do me the honor of dancing with me? Rudy asked as he held his hand out to her. Misty stared at the open hand in surprise. No boy had ever asked her to dance before, let alone a handsome boy like Rudy. He certainly seemed like a nice guy, so Misty believed she could trust him. That sounds lovely. Thank you, Rudy, Misty replied as she took his hand. Can I join, too? Marie asked. Of course. The three of us will have a great time. Rudy responded as he took Misty onto the dance floor, the little girl following them. He then took Misty in one of his hands and his little sister in the other, and they danced together. Overall, the group had an amazing time at the festival. Ash and Serena got to spend much alone time with each other. Brock had gotten an invitation to have breakfast with his idol, Susie, and Misty had gotten to know a nice boy by the name of Rudy and his sister. Despite the wonderful time everyone was having, all good things had to come to an end. At some point. "Well, it was nice meeting you, Misty," Rudy said as he placed a kiss on her hand, causing her to blush. "Thanks. You, too, Rudy," Misty replied. "If you are ever in the Orange Islands, please come to visit my sister and me at Trovita Island. We would love to have you," Rudy invited. "You know what, I just might do that one day," Misty answered. "So it's a promise?" Mari asked hopefully. "You bet. I'll definitely do it sometime," Misty confirmed. The two walked away with Mari frantically waving her hands at Misty until they were out of sight. Misty watched them go with her hand over her heart. It seemed like her prayers were answered. Rudy was quite the gentleman, and he was even a gym leader just like she was. He also had a cute little sister whom Misty had gotten along really well with. She really hoped they would see each other again soon. Maybe there was hope for her with boys, after all. By the time Ash and Serena had finally arrived back at the Pokemon Center, it was already 11 o'clock at night. Eevee was extremely tired, so Serena had returned it to its Pokeball. Cubone was asleep in her arms, and Pikachu was almost passed out on Ash's shoulder. It had been a very fun but tiring day. They weren't expecting Brock and Misty to be waiting for them in the lobby once they arrived. The two were looking at Ash and Serena expectantly. "So how did it go?" Brock asked with a knowing smile. We had a really awesome time," Ash responded. "Attaboy, Ash." Brock praised as he went over and gave Ash a nudgie. "Aw. Knock it off, Brock," Ash said embarrassedly as he pulled himself away. "You've got to give me the details," Brock pleaded. "Don't be so nosy, Brock. They had a good time. That's all you need to know." "We should be getting to bed," Misty said in annoyance as she pulled Brock away by the ear with one hand and took the sleeping Cubone and Pikachu in the other one. "Ouch. Don't drag me by the ear. I'm not doing anything bad," Brock exasperated as they disappeared around a corner, leaving Ash and Serena alone. The two stood in silence for a few moments until Serena broke it once more. "Thank you for today, Ash. I had a really great time." "Yeah. I did, too. I'm really glad we did this," Ash replied. "You are?" Serena asked hopefully. "Of course. I had a lot of fun with you," Ash confirmed. "Does that mean we can go on a date again sometime?" Serena pleaded. Ash paused for a moment. Go on a date again with Serena? He hadn't thought of that one. There is no doubt he and Serena had a good time. He went on a date with her because they were best friends for sure, but once again, Ash had his doubts about it sometime. Going on dates was something that best friends didn't do. They hang out, but dates? It was all so confusing sometimes. Ash's stomach was extremely knotted right now. He never used to keep getting so worked up around Serena. Ash really went deep into thought with that question. How would going on another date affect his and Serena's relationship? He kept getting this really weird feeling, and after much thinking, decided the best way to figure out what it was to go on another date again with Serena in the future. Hopefully, that will provide the answers. After what seemed like an eternity to Serena, Ash gave his response. Of course, Ash answered with a smile. I'd love to go on another date sometime. Serena was absolutely beaming when she heard Ash say those words. I'm so glad, she replied. Yeah. Anyway, it's getting pretty late. We should probably get to bed. You have another Battle Chateau challenge tomorrow. I want to make sure you are well rested, Ash said. Yes, of course. Good night, Ash, Serena responded as she began to make her way to her and Misty's room, but stopped. She suddenly had an incredible urge to do something she had never dared do before to Ash. If this was the past, there would be no way Serena would have the courage to do what she was about to do, but after a day like today, it felt right. Taking a deep breath, Serena walked up to Ash before she leaned over and kissed him on the cheek, completely taking him by surprise. The moment Ash felt Serena's soft lips touch his cheek, he began to feel really dazed and his chest felt its tightest yet. He had never been kissed by a girl before, cheek or otherwise. Wow, it felt incredible. Serena held that position for about 5 seconds before taking her face away from Ash's. Thank you again, Ash. Good night, Serena said as she hurried away to her room. Inside she was leaping with pure joy. Oh my gosh. Yes. I just had my first kiss with Ash. It doesn't matter if it was on the cheek. I still kissed him. Ash stood completely still in the lobby for a while after Serena had left. His hand was holding the spot on his cheek where Serena had kissed him. He was as red as a tomato. He was at a complete loss right now with his feelings for Serena. He could no longer tell if she was just his best friend or something much more. Wow, Serena. What is going on with you and me? Ash mumbled to himself. Chapter 36, Brock's Battle. Ash had slept quite peacefully that night at the Pokemon Center. To be quite honest, he felt like it had been the most restful sleep he has had since he entered Saffron City. Yesterday had truly been a day off for him and his friends to enjoy themselves. There were no Pokemon battles to worry about, no Battle Chateau challenges, and best of all, there had been no Team Rocket. The group has the misfortune of running into Team Rocket at least once in every major city so far. Fuchsia City had definitely been the most enjoyable city the group had visited so far. Now, it was the start of a new day. Ash yawned as he gave a stretch and got out of bed, Pikachu doing the same. It seemed Brock had already gotten out of bed and left the room, as usual. Ash vaguely remembered Brock mentioning he was having breakfast with a very special person. It made Ash wonder who on earth it could be. Brock must have actually met a girl last night by the way he was talking about the person. Who do you think it is, Pikachu? Ash asked the rodent as he began to change into his clothes. Chew, Pikachu replied with a shrug of its small shoulders. Come to think of it, how had Brock actually managed to even get a girl to go to breakfast with him in the first place? Most of the time, he would act extremely goofy, and the girl would reject his advances. So what could he have said that would make a girl have breakfast with him, unless it was a female version of Brock who was just as crazy about the opposite gender as he was? Ash and Pikachu shuddered at the thought. Once Ash had gotten dressed in his normal attire, Pikachu hopped on his shoulder, and he began to head towards the door to greet his friends. Just before Ash opened the door, he stopped. Serena would definitely be out there, and he didn't quite know how to handle it. He was extremely confused about his feelings for her right now, especially after she kissed him the previous night. It wasn't that he didn't enjoy the kiss. He was just very surprised. Now that he and Serena had gone on a date and she kissed him, would their relationship be different from now on? Would she treat Ash much differently from now on? He wasn't sure how to react to her now. Pika. Ash's rodent partner inquired after seeing its trainer's thoughtful expression. Oh. I'm good, buddy, Ash replied before opening the door and heading down the hall to the Pokemon Center. Ash supposed he would just have to play it by ear and see how his interactions with Serena would go now. As Ash made his way down the hall and into the cafeteria, he wasn't surprised to find Brock, Misty, and Serena already seated at a table, eating their breakfast. Ash always seemed to be the last one to wake up. What did surprise him was that there was a new person at the table. She had long teal hair with a Vulpix next to her. The Vulpix was talking with Cubone. After a brief moment, Ash realized that it was Susie, the Pokemon breeder he had met the previous night at the Fuchsia City Festival. Why was she sitting with his friends? Was she actually the person whom Brock was having breakfast with? Ash then got a tray and plate from the corner of the cafeteria before helping himself to the wide variety of food set up like a buffet. He then made sure to get a cup of ketchup for Pikachu before joining his friends at the table. As soon as Serena spotted him coming, she immediately turned a deep shade of red, which caused Ash to do the same thing, as well. He then set his tray down next to Serena's before sitting down. Pikachu hopped off of his shoulder before grabbing the cup of ketchup and going over to Vulpix and Cubone to converse with them. "Good morning, Ash," Serena greeted warmly, despite still being red. "Good morning," Ash replied back. "How did you sleep?" "I slept wonderful," Serena answered, and indeed she had. She had several blissful dreams about her and Ash being a couple. The two continued to stare at each other for a few moments before they heard Brock clear his throat, snapping them back to reality. "Oh, hey guys. What's up?" Ash said, addressing the rest of his friends and Susie before taking a sip of milk. "We're good, Ash. I think we all had a good night's sleep," Misty told him. She was still thinking about Rudy. "Good to hear," Ash replied before turning to Susie. "So Susie, it's good to see you again, but I am curious to know why you are here with us." "Oh, I'm sorry. Brock and I agreed to have breakfast together today. We met last night at the festival and decided it would be a great idea to share with each other our different methods on Pokemon breeding," Susie answered. "Ah, so they are just sharing breeding tips," Ash thought, but as soon as he saw Brock's facial expression, he quickly knew Brock wasn't thinking quite along the same lines. "Yeah," Brock said dreamily while looking at Susie with a longing expression before shaking his head. "I mean, right. I already told Misty this, but Susie is one of the world's best breeders. It really is a huge step for me as a Pokemon breeder that I learn as much from her as I can." "Thank you for the kind words, Brock, but I'm learning a lot from you, too," Susie said before Vulpix hopped on the table and nuzzled her face. "A perfect example is Vulpix. Before I met you, it was always really hard for me to find a flavor of food that Vulpix would eat. You, on the other hand, were able to get it right your first try. I would say outside of me, you are one of the few people Vulpix actually trusts. Right Vulpix?" "Vul." The fox Pokemon cried happily. "Really?" Brock asked in surprise. His idol was actually calling him a great breeder. Vulpix then went over to Brock and sat down in front of him, obviously an invitation to pet it. "Not to mention I also noticed how loving you are towards all of you and your friends' Pokemon," Susie continued. "Your friends told me they are all very well taken care of, and it's all thanks to you." Brock turned red and began rubbing his neck in embarrassment. "Ha ha ha. Well, I just do my best," Brock said. "So I'm curious, what are the rest of you aiming to be?" Susie asked everyone else politely. "I'm training to be a Pokemon master. I've already collected 5 badges and going on number 6. Ash said proudly as he showed Susie the inside of his sleeveless jacket where the badges were pinned. "I see. Was this Pikachu your first Pokemon?" Susie asked as she gestured to Pikachu who had just now finished its cup of ketchup and hopped on his shoulder. "It sure was. Ash replied. When we first started out, Pikachu didn't think too highly of me because it had bad experiences with people in the past. I was able to show Pikachu I wasn't like the others and gained its trust. We've been best friends ever since. Pikachu. The yellow rodent agreed with nod. As for me, I'm already one of the gym leaders of Cerulean Gym, Misty revealed. However, I left the gym recently to prove myself. I'm trying to become a great water Pokemon trainer before returning to the gym. I haven't really figured out my goal yet, Serena admitted, but right now I'm competing at the Battle Chateau. I've had a lot of fun with it so far and have reached the rank of Baroness. That's very impressive. Susie praised. I've heard the Battle Chateau can be very challenging sometimes. To reach the rank of Baroness is quite an achievement. Thank you. I actually was going to go compete in a competition today, Serena said. I always thought the Battle Chateau had been interesting ever since it opened, Susie commented. The fact that you have to dress up and look nice while also trying to be somewhat elegant in your battle style must be quite challenging. If it isn't too much trouble, would you mind if I watched you compete today? I would like to have a chance to see what the Battle Chateau is all about. Of course you can. Serena replied with a smile. Thank you. By the way, Brock, have you ever thought about competing in a Battle Chateau tournament? Susie asked him. A Battle Chateau tournament? Me? Brock asked in confusion. Of course. You told me you used to be the Pewter City gym leader, and you are also a Pokemon breeder. I would love to see how you incorporate your breeding techniques in a Pokemon battle, Susie said. Say no more. Brock suddenly yelled as he suddenly slammed his hands on the table and stood up. I am going to compete in the Battle Chateau today. You are? Ash, Misty, and Serena questioned at the same time. Definitely. I shall use my skills as a Pokemon breeder to advance through the ranks and earn Susie's respect. I shall do it even if I have to go against you, Serena. Brock declared as he pointed straight at the honey blonde girl. But Brock, you already have my, Susie began, but Brock interrupted her by grabbing her hands and looking her straight in the eye. I can't wait to show you all I've learned as a Pokemon breeder through battling. Brock said excitedly before he dashed out of the cafeteria. Brock? Where are you going? Misty called after him. To register at the Battle Chateau. What else? Brock yelled back before he was out of sight. Everyone in the room looked after the scene with confusion. Brock sure was a motivated individual when it came to girls. I was going to tell Brock he already has my respect. I suggested he do the Battle Chateau just for today so I could see his techniques. I hope I didn't mislead him to believe he had to go through all this trouble of advancing through the ranks just for me, Susie said in worry. Brock must hold you in high regard, Ash muttered. Vulpix chimed in. It looks like I'll have my work cut out for me at the Battle Chateau if I end up facing Brock. I've never gone against an actual gym leader before, Serena said. You'll do great. Ash told her before turning red and looking away. Just like you always do. Tee-hee. Thank you, Ash. Serena giggled. Pikachu and Cubone watched Serena and Ash's cute interaction with interest. They hoped it wasn't too much long before they fully came to terms with their feelings for each other. Serena was now in the backyard field of the Pokemon Center. She had her arms folded and her head down as if she were in deep thought. Serena knew she would have a tough round at the Battle Chateau this time because Brock was competing. Even though Brock had mainly focused on breeding since he began traveling with them, that still didn't change the fact that he used to be a gym leader. That proved he was going to be a very tough opponent should she go against him. Now that she was at the rank of Baroness, she figured it would be a good idea to train her Pokemon before the tournament today. Okay. Come on out everyone. Serena called as she released all of her Pokemon. Once they were out of their Pokeballs, all of them gave Serena an expectant look. The only exception was Hitmonlee, who shut its eyes before sitting down and meditating. It seemed Hitmonlee could be a little too relaxed sometimes, but Serena knew by now that the kicking fiend was still listening. All right. This is probably going to be our toughest challenge yet. Everyone who is going to be competing in this tournament has done just as well as I have or better. Let's get in. Some good training so we are prepared for anything. Serena cried while pumping her fist in the air. Cubone. Cubone cried also while mimicking her movements. All of her Pokemon responded in agreement before they went into some heavy training. Nidorina was working on fighting with its teeth and claws since its horn wasn't developed. It had become quite adept at its dig attack lately and had learned to control it better. Charla was learning to control its accuracy with its fire attacks better. It had been working very hard on trying to control the flames more. It was soon able to get the flames from its mouth to begin swirling in a spiral pattern, and its eyes lit up with excitement. It then hurriedly ran to Serena, who was watching Nidorina at the moment. "What is it, Charla?" Serena asked once the fire chameleon reached her. Charla then took a step back and blew forth its burning flames from its mouth. The flames went up and up until it looked like a tornado made out of fire was taking place. Unfortunately, it seemed it was having a hard time steering it. It got a worried expression once it found out how hard it was to control. "Quick! Stop shooting the flames, Charla!" Serena yelled frantically once the fire tornado began coming towards them. Charla immediately quit blowing the fire and got a sheepish expression on its face while Serena and the other Pokemon sighed with relief. "Well, I guess the good news is that you learned Fire Spin," Serena said while shrugging her shoulders. "But I guess we may need to work on controlling it." Serena's other Pokemon sweat dropped once they heard Charla would be doing that attack more, but a glare from Charla immediately made them nod in agreement. Just because Charla was very girly, that still didn't take away the fact that it was still a Charmeleon and could be frightening when angry. Serena then went over to her Jigglypuff, who was practicing its speed. It had gotten very skilled at its rollout attack as well as its control while floating in the air. Despite Jigglypuff's round body, it was a very fit Pokemon. "How's it going, Jigglypuff?" Serena asked it. "Jiggly." It responded happily before coming down from the air to land in Serena's arms to snuggle with her. "I thought so. Keep up the great work," Serena encouraged before hugging it back and setting it down on the ground. She then looked over and saw one Pokemon who wasn't as enthusiastic as the others about training. It was her Oddish. Eevee was over next to it, nudging it and trying to encourage it to train, but Oddish would just look down sadly and sigh. Deciding to see what was going on, Serena went over and kneeled in front of Oddish to be more eye level with it. "Hey, Eevee. Will you go play with Cubone for a moment while I talk with Oddish?" she asked with a smile. "VV!" it exclaimed before running off with Cubone. Serena then directed her attention back to Oddish. "Hey, Oddish. Why aren't you training like the others?" she asked curiously. Oddish didn't look at its trainer and continued to look at the ground before sighing again. "You know you can talk to me, Oddish," Serena tried again. Oddish looked up at Serena and began to make various movements and sounds. Despite not understanding it, Serena got the gist of what it was saying. "I don't think that's true at all, Oddish. You aren't a weak Pokemon. You've won plenty of battles in the past," Serena said. Oddish wasn't so convinced, however. It's true it had won battles for Serena before, but it always would win by the skin of its teeth. Not to mention, after the battle it would be too tired to battle again for a while. It supposed this was in part to being a sickly Pokemon while it was at Melanie's cabin. It probably still hadn't fully recovered yet despite it being with Serena for many months now. Serena then heard footsteps behind her and turned to see Ash and Pikachu approaching. She blushed once she saw him coming but quickly shook it away. Oddish also looked up at the raven-haired boy. "How's the training going, Serena?" Ash asked once he reached her. "All of my Pokemon are working super hard to perfect their attacks," Serena reported before casting a worried look in Oddish's direction. "It seems Oddish doesn't think it's good enough to battle anymore, though." "It doesn't? Why would you think that, Oddish?" Ash asked as he knelt down. "Also." Pikachu hopped off of his shoulder and went over to put a comforting hand on the grass type. "It says that it isn't as strong as my other Pokemon because it used to be sickly at Melanie's cabin, but I think it's been doing great. It's never had this problem before," Serena said. "Hey, Oddish. If you want another Pokemon's opinion on how much stronger you have gotten, why don't you just ask a Pokemon you've known for a while," Ash said as he released Bulbasaur. He had traded back at Professor Oak's lab for his Mook earlier that day. "Bulbasaur!" the plant dinosaur cried. "Bulbasaur, you used to be a great bodyguard for Oddish and have seen it train. Do you think it's gotten any stronger?" Ash asked it. Bulbasaur then went over to Oddish, who was giving it an inquisitive stare. Bulbasaur stared back at Oddish for a few moments before it shot out a vine and raised it in the air as if to strike Oddish. The weed Pokemon got a surprised look on its face before leaping out of the way just before it hit. It then ran forward and tackled Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur recoiled slightly from the hit before grinning broadly at Oddish. It then began to tell Oddish that it wouldn't have been able to dodge a surprise attack and retaliate like that if it wasn't a strong Pokemon. It had great reflexes. It had definitely improved its skills since Melanie's cabin. Oddish smiled upon hearing that and nodded its head. "You see," Serena said as she rubbed Oddish on the head. "You are a great Pokemon, and I'm really happy to have you on my team." "That's right," Ash agreed as he picked up Bulbasaur. "When Bulbasaur and I first started out, we had a tough time winning battles together because everything outside Melanie's village was so different, but once we got some special training in, we've been doing much better. Isn't that right, Bulbasaur?" "Soar." It agreed happily. Oddish looked thoughtfully at Serena, Ash, Pikachu, and Bulbasaur. Maybe everyone was right. It just needed to have more confidence in itself. It couldn't be held back by its past state as a sickly Pokemon forever. So what if it was only a foot tall and unevolved? It could still show a Pokemon a thing or two. "Oddish!" it cried before running off to work on perfecting its attacks. "Why don't you go help Oddish, Bulbasaur?" Ash suggested as they watched it run off. "Bulbasaur!" it replied in the affirmative before leaping out of Ash's arms and following the weed Pokemon. Serena smiled before turning back to Ash. "Thanks for your help, Ash," she said. "Hey! Don't thank me. Thank Bulbasaur. It was the one who convinced Oddish," Ash told her. They continued to stare at each other for a moment before Ash began to get really nervous. There was just something about Serena right now that was making Ash feel really warm. There was a slight breeze in the air, and her honey blonde hair was blowing gently in the wind, giving her a picturesque look. She had a beautiful smile on her face as she continued to look at Ash as if expecting him to say something. Ash felt himself turn red once again and decided to excuse himself. "I don't want to get in the way of your training, so I'll just be heading off and see how Brock's doing," Ash muttered nervously before going with Pikachu. "Okay. See you later, Ash," Serena said sweetly as she watched him go. There was no mistaking that look, she thought. He definitely must be starting to feel something for me. He is starting to get nervous around me like I do with him. "I feel like I need a cold shower right now, buddy," Ash told Pikachu to his side as he walked with it back to the Pokemon Center once they were out of Serena's earshot. Pika Pi Pikachu, the rodent snickered. It then clasped its hands together and made a love-stricken face before pretending to faint. Knock it off, Pikachu, Ash said embarrassedly. I don't love Serena. Do I? He thought secretly. Brock had wasted no time in making a beeline straight for the Fuchsia City Battle Chateau after he left the breakfast table. He had no trouble registering at all with Hennessy. Because of his previous gym leader status, he was still confident in his abilities as a trainer and couldn't wait to show Susie how well he raised his Pokémon so she would recognize him. Brock was currently in the side yard of the Pokémon Center polishing his Onix and Geodude with a rag while Zubat was enjoying some of Brock's homemade Pokémon food. There you go, guys. We have a tournament we're going to enter today, so I want to make sure you all are in peak condition, Brock told them with determination. His Pokémon nodded in agreement. Onix and Geodude had been with Brock a really long time and definitely believed in his abilities. He was a great Pokémon breeder as well as a battler. Even his newest member, Zubat, had picked up on Brock's skills. It had only taken excellent grooming and Pokémon food to show it that. Brock, you know it isn't necessary to actually compete in the Battle Chateau to prove yourself to Susie, Misty said from behind him. You don't understand, Misty, Brock replied as he stopped polishing his Geodude for a second to face her. My dream is to be the world's best Pokémon breeder. Susie is definitely the best of the best. If she actually thinks of me as worthy breeder, I will be one step closer to achieving my dream of being one. That's why I need to win this. I want to show Susie my great methods of how I take care of my Pokémon through battling. I guess I see where you're coming from, but I still think you are being a little rash. Susie has already said several times what a great breeder you are. Not to mention me, Ash. And Serena thinks so, as well. Our Pokémon owe a lot to you with how much you take care of them, Misty told him. Thanks for those words, Misty, but this is something I feel like I have to do, Brock answered as he went back to polishing his rock Pokémon. Sensing that the conversation was over, Misty nodded in understanding before heading back in the direction where she came from. The group, accompanied by Susie, was now standing in front of the Fuchsia City Battle Chateau. The grand castle before them was a stark contrast between the traditional Japanese buildings and wildlife the group had seen so far in the city. To their great surprise, there wasn't as big of a line in this one as there were in the other cities they encountered. Maybe the Fuchsia City Battle Chateau wasn't as popular as the one in the other cities because of too many more activities to do in the smaller city? Regardless of the reason, the group was able to walk right in. Hennessy was there to greet them as usual as soon as they walked through the large double doors. Welcome to the Fuchsia City Battle Chateau, sirs and madams. Hennessy greeted. Who will be competing in today's tournament? I am. My name is Serena Gabina, and I'm going to compete in the upper ranks for the rank of Duchess. Serena declared with confidence. I'm Brock. I'm competing, too. Brock stuttered. Despite being really eager to participate, he was still extremely nervous. It was mainly because Susie was going to be watching him. Very well. May I just see the young dame's case of symbols and her certification to prove her rank? Hennessy asked politely. Brock was already a known past gym leader, so he automatically qualified for the upper ranks. Certainly. Serena replied as she handed her case to Hennessy. Hennessy inspected everything before handing them back to Serena and bowing. I see you are going for the Duchess rank today, madam. I wish you the best of luck in your tournament. May the ones who are competing follow me to the changing room. Good luck, you guys. Ash called after them while giving a thumbs up. Thank you, Ash. Serena said sweetly while turning around to wink at him. Ash felt a slight tinge of pink on his cheeks. When was the last time Serena had ever winked at him like that? Ehehehe. Brock laughed nervously. It wasn't that he was worried about his battling skills. He was just hoping his methods were good enough for Susie. As the three watched them go, Misty leaned over to Ash and whispered, "I think both Serena and Brock feel like they have a lot at stake right now. This is Serena's last rank to achieve before she becomes a duchess, and Brock wants to prove himself to Susie." "I know," Ash whispered back. "I know one of them has to win, but I don't want one of them to lose, either. I think that regardless of who wins, one will be happy for the other." "I know they will both do great," Susie spoke up. Vulpix agreed. "This feels weird," Brock thought to himself as he was being led down the halls by one of the butlers. He was soon led into a changing room where he was presented a white button-up shirt with a bow tie, along with a dark blue suit jacket and matching dark blue slacks with black shoes. Brock could honestly say he never had to look this neat before. He was used to being a little worn out and dirty from doing chores or caring for his Pokemon, so this was almost foreign to him. He took the clothes from the butler's outstretched hands and went into the nearby closet to change. He looked himself over in the mirror once he was finished and walked out, but was stopped by the butler. "Before you come out to battle, I must ask you to please comb your hair, sir," the butler said apologetically. "My hair?" Brock questioned as he looked at himself in the mirror. When was the last time he had done that? He looked over all of the tangles and spikes in his hair and realized it may take a while to this. Once Brock had finished in the changing room, he walked back down the hallway to find his friends were already waiting for him at the end. They all gasped in shock once they saw him, which made him a little uneasy. Hey. Why are you all looking at me like that?" Brock asked curiously. "Brock, I've never seen your hair so neat before," Misty said in surprise. It was an even bigger shock to see Brock's hair neat and tidy than it was Ash's hair back in Viridian City. "Heh. Yeah. You have no idea how much hairspray I had to use to keep it down. I'm sure I have the hardest hair in Fuchsia City right now." Brock chuckled, which caused the others to laugh. "I for one think you look very handsome, Brock," Susie complimented with a smile. Thank you, Susie," Brock cried before blushing and bowing several times. His idol actually thought he looked handsome. "Let's not forget Serena," Ash reminded before walking over to Serena and taking one of her hands. "You look lovely, madam," he said in a formal voice before kissing her hand. Serena blushed furiously. Did Ash just really kiss her hand? She was beginning to wonder what happened to the incredibly clueless Ash she once knew. He never would have done that in the past. It was almost semi-romantic what he did just now. She continued to stare at Ash while he stared back at her. His chocolate brown eyes were so alluring right now. Did she dare take the kiss on the hand a step further? She soon found herself leaning in closer to Ash until, "Are you all ready to begin the challenge?" Hennessy interrupted. Serena immediately pulled away from Ash. She was still blushing heavily. Was she really about to? As much as she wanted to, she couldn't believe how bold she was being lately. With her feelings for Ash. They were in a public place, for crying out loud, with everyone watching them. It was so embarrassing. Ash, meanwhile, was looking at Serena strangely. When he saw her leaning in closer to him, he could have sworn he heard several alarms going off in his head. He wasn't quite sure how to react. Should he just stand there? Should he lean in, too? Was Serena actually going to, whoa? Yes. We're ready. Serena smiled at Hennessy, despite being slightly disappointed. In that case, madam, you will be up first. Please follow me, Hennessy requested before making his way into the battle room, followed by the others. Pika-Pi Pikachu. Pikachu snickered at Ash. I already told you, Pikachu. I don't love Serena, Ash whispered so the others wouldn't hear him. Pikachu shook its head and let out a huff. Ash may have been oblivious before, but now it just seemed like he was trying to convince himself he wasn't. Once they were in there, Serena handed Cubone to Ash before going over to her spot while the rest went to the side part 2 of the room to watch. Brock was glad Serena went. First so he could try to pick up on any special techniques the battle chateau might have. He had seen Serena battle several times before, but he would paying special attention this time. Serena patiently awaited her opponent for about 30 seconds before he appeared on the other side. He was a thin boy with blonde hair. It seemed he was fairly confident. "May the dame and beau please bow or curtsy to one another," the judge called. Serena did a curtsy while the boy gave a slight bow in return. This is the first round of an official Battle Chateau challenge between Serena and John. There will be no time limit. Please choose your Pokemon, the judge declared. Serena decided she would have Hitmonlee make its debut today at the Battle Chateau since it hasn't had a chance yet. She had been training with it, and it had won its match against Ash's Hitmonchan. She just hoped it wasn't so relaxed to where it wouldn't do anything. "Hitmonlee, I choose you," Serena shouted as she released the kicking fiend. Once Hitmonlee was released from its Pokeball, it gave a deep breath before exhaling and closed its eyes for a short meditation before the battle. "A Hitmonlee, huh? In that case, I'll choose Electabuzz," the boy said as he released it. "An Electabuzz? I haven't seen one of those yet," Serena muttered as she scanned it. "Electabuzz, the electric Pokemon. Its body constantly discharges electricity and can cause blackouts in cities," said the Pokédex. The Electabuzz charged up electricity and looked very ready for battle as opposed to Serena's Hitmonlee who looked as calm as ever. "Begin," the judge shouted. "Use meditate, Hitmonlee," Serena ordered. She figured that since Hitmonlee liked to do it so much she might as well tell it to do so in a battle to raise it attack. Hitmonlee seemed to like that idea as it sat down on the ground and seemed to be focusing very hard while closing its eyes. "Hey! We aren't here to relax. We're here to battle. Electabuzz, use Thunder Punch," John yelled. He was a little on the rude side for a place like the Battle Chateau. The Electabuzz nodded its head before roaring and charging up its fist with electricity. It then dashed straight for Hitmonlee, crackling with energy. Hitmonlee sensed it was coming and sighed. It seemed it was facing another hot-blooded Pokemon. It was highly reminded of that raven-haired boy's Hitmonchan. As Electabuzz was getting closer to Hitmonlee, the group was beginning to wonder why Serena wasn't ordering Hitmonlee to do anything. It was still in the same meditative position it always was, but Serena and Hitmonlee had a plan. Just a few more seconds, Serena thought. Just before Electabuzz reached Hitmonlee, Serena gave a command. "Dodge it, and use Rolling Kick," she yelled. Hitmonlee quickly opened its eyes from its meditation. It saw Electabuzz bring its fist down for the strike. Its limber body allowed to quickly roll underneath Electabuzz's outstretched arm, surprising it. Hitmonlee then was behind Electabuzz. It quit rolling and ended up on its back as it brought its leg upward in a kicking motion, smashing its foot into Electabuzz's back. Electabuzz made a cry of pain as it was knocked into the air. "Leap into the air after it," Serena told Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee jumped into the air and was soon eye level with Electabuzz as they had a stare-off. "Use Thunderbolt, Electabuzz," John yelled. "Use Mega Kick," Serena yelled also. Electabuzz charged up and released a massive amount of electricity at Hitmonlee. The attack connected and Hitmonlee grimaced slightly from the jolt. While it hurt, it wasn't affected too much by the electric attack because of the constant mediations it did to strengthen its mind. It was still able to stretch out its legs and deliver a solid kick to Electabuzz's face. It then raised its foot above Electabuzz's head and smashed it down on top of it, sending the electric Pokemon plummeting to the ground. Cubone. Cubone cried in joy, for its surrogate mother was winning so far. Hitmonlee's doing very well. Serena must be a great trainer to be in tune with how a calm Pokemon like Hitmonlee prefers to battle, Susie commented. Vulpix agreed. That's Serena for you, Ash smiled. She's gotten a lot more in tune with her Pokemon's feelings the past few months. So Susie thinks Serena is a good battler? I hope she thinks that way for me, also, Brock thought as he watched the battle. The two Pokemon were once again back on the ground, staring at each other. Serena was really proud of how Hitmonlee was battling, but she didn't know that her opponent was about to throw a curveball. Use Psychic, Electabuzz. John shouted. The Electabuzz soon shot out a blast of psychic waves, completely taking Serena and Hitmonlee by surprise. The energy blasted through the air and struck Hitmonlee right in the stomach. Hitmonlee gave a cry of pain as it was knocked off its feet from the super effective hit. It soared through the air and landed on its back. Oh, no. Are you okay, Hitmonlee? Serena cried. Lee, Hitmonlee muttered as it slowly got to its feet. I didn't know an Electabuzz could learn Psychic, Ash commented aloud. They can't naturally. They have to use a TM to learn that move, Misty explained as she watched the battle with a frown. Come on, Serena. Don't let that psychic attack stop you, Ash thought. Are you still okay to fight, Hitmonlee? Serena asked it. Hitmonlee turned around and nodded at its trainer. It was taken by surprise once by that psychic attack, but it wouldn't let it happen a second time. Use Psychic one more time, Electabuzz. John ordered. Once more, the psychic waves were shot out of Electabuzz, but they weren't fooled a second time. Run forward and jump over it, Hitmonlee. Serena yelled. Hitmonlee got a small running start as the waves came closer to it. Then at the last second, it leaped high into the air, soaring right over the psychic attack. It then began to fall towards Electabuzz with the intent for a high jump kick. Use Reflect to block that kick, Electabuzz. Once you do, use Thunder Punch. John ordered. He thought he had the match, but he didn't know Serena and Hitmonlee had a trick up their sleeve, as well. Electabuzz set up a glowing wall around itself to prevent the high jump kick from working, but Serena switched tactics. Use Brick Break, Hitmonlee. She called. Hitmonlee withdrew its foot from using high jump kick. Then it put forward its seldom used arms in a karate chop motion. It brought its hand down right onto the wall around Electabuzz. The wall instantly shattered and Electabuzz was blown back several yards. Your Hitmonlee knows Brick Break. John cried. It sure does. Serena replied with smile before commanding, Hitmonlee, finish with one more mega kick. Hitmonlee landed on the ground and ran towards Electabuzz, who was still dazed from its reflect being shattered. It then reeled its leg back and smashed T into Electabuzz Z. Midsection. The electric Pokemon was sent flying backwards once more. It landed on the ground and was down for the count. Electabuzz is unable to battle. The winners are Serena and Hitmonlee. The judge announced. You did amazing your first battle Chateau round, Hitmonlee. Thank you. Serena cried as she ran forward to give it a hug. Lee, Hitmonlee breathed as it returned the hug before closing its eyes and returning to its meditative state. Great victory, Serena. Ash cheered as he went over to meet her. Pika-Pie. Pikachu added. Cubone Bone. Cubone chimed in. Thanks, everyone. Serena replied as she took Cubone back. While everyone was congratulating Serena, Brock was watching, as well, while he smiled. It seemed to him that there wasn't too much of a difference between regular Pokemon battles and a Battle Chateau challenge. He felt a surge of confidence that he might be able to do this, and then gain Susie's approval. This will be an official Battle Chateau challenge against Brock, a former gym leader of Pewter City, and Sean. There will be no time limit. May the two bows please bow to one another, the judge declared. Brock took a deep breath before he gave a bow to the person across from him. This was it. He was finally doing a Battle Chateau challenge, and he had his friends and Susie supporting him. The boy, who was black-haired and of normal build, bowed back. It was true Brock hadn't had real battle in a while, but that didn't mean he didn't believe he could win. He was nervous for sure, but he knew he had taken great care of his Pokemon. Brock winning the battle will be his Pokemon's way of returning their love to him. It was then he realized he had been using Geodude and Onix for as long as he could remember, but he hadn't really used Zubat in a real battle yet. He then decided the first round would be the best place to start it out with. Please choose your Pokemon now, the judge commanded. Zubat, go. Brock yelled as he released the bat Pokemon. Zubat gave cry once it was released and began flapping its wings quickly to keep it in the air. I'm facing a former gym leader, huh? This should be fun. I choose you, Sandslash. The boy known as Sean yelled before releasing it. A sand-colored mouse-like Pokemon with large claws at the ends of its hands and feet with a spiny back emerged with cry. Slash. It cried in a nasally voice. A Sandslash? Ash questioned as he and Serena scanned it. Sandslash, the mouse Pokemon and the evolved form of Sandshrew. Sandslash can dig incredibly fast. If its claws break, they grow back in a day, reported the Pokédexes. Do you think a Zubat will be able to keep up with a Sandslash? There is a huge difference in power, Serena asked Ash. This is Brock we are talking about, so I'm sure he will come out on top, Ash replied. Susie and Vulpix had their eyes completely focused on how Brock was going to battle. Begin. The judge yelled. Zubat? Let's start things off with a supersonic. Brock commanded. Zubat began to release shrill semi-invisible waves from its mouth that sailed towards Sandslash. Dodge it by digging underground, Brock's opponent ordered. The Sandslash immediately jumped into the air before spiraling downward and quickly digging a hole with its sharp claws. It then entered the hole and the waves passed harmlessly over it. Brock wondered as an afterthought how many times the battle room had to change floors with all the attacks and holes dug in battles. The Sandslash soon emerged quickly from the ground before spiraling up and slashing at Zubat with its sharp claws. Dodge it and use wing attack, Zubat, Brock called. Zubat quickly flew out of the way of the claws before appearing behind Sandslash and struck the mouse Pokemon with one of its wings. The Sandslash was knocked out of the air and landed on the ground quite hard, but it wasn't near defeated yet. Get up and use Sandstorm, Sean yelled. The Sandslash obeyed and began to twirl very quickly as dust began to emerge from the ground. Soon, a lot of sand had been whipped up and filled the room, making it difficult to see. The Battle Chateau must have special types of flooring to allow these kinds of attacks to happen. This defies nature, Ash cried as he shielded his eyes from the sandstorm. Everyone else was wondering the same thing about how the Sandslash could make a sandstorm happen on carpet. Brock and Zubat could hardly catch their breath before Sandslash appeared right in front of Zubat and slashed at with its claws, scoring a direct hit. Zubat shrieked in pain and flew back a little bit to get away from Sandslash. It's okay, Zubat, Brock encouraged. We can still rely on your supersonic to see Sandslash through this sand. Zubat nodded as it began to use supersonic at different areas of the room to try to locate Sandslash. The mouse Pokemon was a lot faster than it looked, and it was constantly moving, but after enough supersonics, Zubat finally found it. It nodded to Brock to signal him to order an attack. Use wing attack, Brock commanded. Zubat felt Sand Slash leap into the air behind it and spun around to deliver another solid slap at the mouse Pokemon, which sent tumbling to the ground once more. Use Rock Slide, Sand Slash. Sean ordered once the Pokemon was on its feet. Sand Slash then began to summon large rocks from seemingly nowhere and sent them all towards Zubat. The bat Pokemon began trying to dodge the rocks as best as it could, but it had a lot of rocks to keep up with, and it was already hard enough to see in the sand swirling around the field. Try to get out of there, Zubat! Brock yelled. Zubat then began to fly towards Brock in an effort to get where there was less sand around. It soon emerged from the worst part. It was almost there, and smiled when it was finally able to see Brock despite the sand. It was almost there when it saw Brock's happy look change to surprise. Heads up, Zubat! Brock yelled. Zubat looked up just as a stray rock was about to come crashing down on top of it. It didn't have time to dodge, and the rock connected, sending Zubat falling towards the ground, where it landed painfully. The rock was pinning its left wing to the ground. Finish with Rock Tomb, Sean ordered. A large tomb of rocks began to fall on top of Zubat and began covering it up. Zubat was trying to fly away, but the rock had fallen on its left wing to prevent it from moving. The rocks continued to pile up on top of Zubat until it couldn't be seen anymore. The Sand Slash then finally relented the attack. Oh, poor Zubat, Misty muttered. It looked like the match had ended. Zubat is unable to. The judge began but was stopped by Brock. Wait! He cried. I can still sense Zubat's supersonic waves through those rocks. It isn't knocked out yet. The judge looked surprised but nodded. Very well. We will give your Zubat 20 seconds to try to break free from underneath the rocks. If it is unable to do so in that time limit, we will call the match. Brock then closed his squinty eyes and began to concentrate hard. How is it that Brock is able to hear Zubat's supersonic attack? Ash wondered aloud. A normal person shouldn't be able to hear them. You're right. A normal person can't, but I bet you Brock can hear it, Misty answered as she and the rest watched in anticipation. Susie and Vulpix looked on in interest. There was no doubt that Brock was a great person as well as an exceptional breeder. He must have a great bond with his Pokemon to be able to sense Zubat's supersonic. I wonder, she thought as she looked at Vulpix. Come on, Zubat. I know you can do it, Brock thought as he continued to concentrate. It had already been 10 seconds and time was running out fast. However, Brock wasn't giving up. He could still hear Zubat's supersonic from underneath those rocks. His Pokemon was doing everything it could to break free. Brock then began to feel Zubat's supersonic getting louder and more powerful. It was almost like Zubat itself was getting stronger. There was only 5 seconds left and the judge looked like he was about to raise his flag. Brock then felt Zubat's most powerful supersonic yet and knew that was it. Now Zubat, break free. You can do it. Brock yelled. Then to everyone's great surprise, there was shining white light coming from the cracks in the rocks. The rays of white light were so bright, they were even overtaking the sandstorm, and it began to die down. Is that what I think it is? Serena gasped as she and everyone else watched in amazement. Soon, the rocks blasted apart as shiny white blurred figure zipped upwards from the wreckage and began darting around the room at breakneck speed. When it finally stopped, the figure wasn't a Zubat. Instead, a Golbat was in its place. That's wonderful, Zubat, I mean Golbat. You evolved. Look at you now. Brock said happily. That's really impressive. Brock was able to sense Golbat's whereabouts in the rocks through its supersonic, told when the best time to break out would be. Susie smiled. Vulpix said as it tilted its head and watched Brock. It doesn't matter if your Pokemon evolved. Sand Slash and I can still win. Sand Slash, Use Sandstorm once more. Sean yelled. Use Confuse Ray, Golbat. Brock ordered. Sandslash had begun spinning quickly to whip up more dust, but Golbat had already shot out a glowing ray from its eyes due to its quick speed. The bright light blasted through the room and completely engulfed Sandslash since it was too busy spinning to dodge it. Sandslash stopped spinning and began to wander around the room with swirly eyes, signaling it was confused. Try to shake it off, and use Rock Slide, Sandslash. Its trainer called. Sandslash then began to summon large rocks once more and started throwing them around the room, but they were missing Golbat completely. It then fell over onto the ground. Because it was so dizzy. Go in for wing attack, and spiral through the air once you start, Golbat. Brock shouted. Golbat then began to speed towards Sandslash as fast as it could. The mouse Pokemon was struggling to get up but unable to due to how dizzy it was. It was like a Squirtle that had fallen on the back of its shell and unable to roll over. Golbat continued to dive bomb Sandslash before it began to turn into a spiral dive. Soon, Golbat was spinning so fast it looked almost like a mini tornado was going through the air. Golbat collided with the Sandslash, making a large explosion of dust to fly up into the air from the remains of Sandslash's sandstorm. Everyone waited in anticipation to see the results. When the dust cleared and settled, Golbat was standing on top of a knocked-out Sandslash in victory. Sandslash is unable to battle. Victory goes to Brock and Golbat. The judge announced. We won? I actually won the first round in the battle chateau. Brock muttered. His face then broke into a wide grin. We actually did it, Golbat. I'm so proud of you. Golbat then left Sandslash and flew over to Brock with an overjoyed expression on its face. Well done, Golbat, Brock smiled once Golbat reached him and rubbed it on the head. That was super, Brock. Ash praised once he and Pikachu came over. You and Golbat must have an awesome relationship if you were able to sense its supersonic attack underneath those rocks. I'm impressed, as well, Susie added. You really are in tune with Pokemon, Brock. He 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 he. Thank you, Susie. I'm not worthy. Brock said embarrassedly as he turned red and bowed continuously. Serena was watching Brock with slight worry. She was happy her friend won, but this proved he was still very capable. He was definitely still a great battler despite focusing more on breeding. Should she face Brock in battle, it would most likely be her toughest battle so far. She had never faced a gym leader before, but she had a feeling she would be facing one today. Serena had managed to make it to the final round. This would be her deciding match for her to try and achieve the highest rank so far. It almost seemed fitting that she would be facing a gym leader for this title rather than a regular trainer. That's right. Brock had made it to the final round, as well. He had lost a lot of his nervousness in time and was now fairly confident he could win the Battle Chateau challenge. Serena, on the other hand, was a little apprehensive. She was currently sitting on a bench in the lobby. Her hands were on her knees, and she looked deep in thought. Hey, Serena. Are you feeling okay? A voice asked from beside her. Serena looked up and saw Ash looking down and giving her one of his trademark smiles that Serena loved so much. Pikachu was on his shoulder. I'm doing okay, I guess. I'm just a little nervous about going up against Brock, Serena answered. I understand what you mean. Brock is a really tough opponent. I remember when I faced him for my first batch. I was only able to beat him because I had the handicap of using as much Pokemon as I needed, Ash said. Right. Since you weren't even able to beat Brock using the same number of Pokemon, I don't know how I will manage to. Brock wants to win just as badly as I do, and we both have a lot on the line, Serena said sadly. Yeah. The truth is, it would be great if both of you were able to win, but there can only be one of you who turns out on top. However, if you are worried about not being strong enough to beat Brock, I can tell you right now that you are, Ash stated. Really? Serena asked hopefully as she looked at him. Definitely. Think about it. You and I have both gotten so much stronger since we started our journey. We hardly knew anything at all about capturing or battling with Pokemon. We were totally destroyed our first time at the Battle Chateau. Now look at us. I have 5 badges, and you are 1 rank away from being a Duchess. Ash told her. Serena thought about what Ash had said. They really had gotten a lot better. She didn't even know what she wanted to do at the start of her journey. She never would have imagined herself coming this far in the Battle Chateau, but here she was. Ash was right. She then looked at Cubone in her arms and saw it nod its head. She had been caring for it like a mother for a while now. She wouldn't have been confident enough to do this at the start of her journey, but here she was once again. Thank you, Ash, she said sincerely and gave Cubone a hug. You're right. I do have what it takes to win. There you go. Ash smiled. Remember, whether you win or lose, it is bound to be a great battle. Pika-Pi. Pikachu added. Ash then got up to go talk to Brock, as well. As Serena watched him go, she once again had a longing expression on her face. Even though she had become bolder in her feelings. For Ash lately, it seemed battling wasn't the only thing she needed to have more confidence in. Maybe she would tell him her real feelings sooner rather than later, after all. Serena and Brock were now facing each other on opposite sides of the battle room with. Each one was just as determined as the other to win. They were no longer nervous about facing the other. All of their friends were on the sidelines cheering them on. It was now finally time for the final Pokemon. Serena was thinking about which Pokemon she could use against Brock. He had stuck to using his Onix and newly evolved Golbat for the other challenges. That meant he would no doubt be using Geodude for the final round. That immediately took out Charla, Jigglypuff, and Eevee since they were weak to those types. Nidorina knew moves that would be strong against a Geodude, but its typing was still weak. Brock would probably figure out how to exploit its weakness, so it was still risky. That left Hitmonlee and Oddish. Hitmonlee had already battled twice today and was most likely worn out, while she hasn't used Oddish once. She then thought back to earlier when she told Oddish it was a strong Pokemon. Here, she would let it prove itself. This will be an official Battle Chateau challenge against Serena and Brock to decide who wins. There will be no time limit. Both opponents will battle until the other is unable to. May they please bow or curtsy to one another. The judge commanded. Serena did a curtsy to Brock before giving a smile. Brock bowed back before giving her a thumbs up. May the best trainer win, he called. Sounds good. Serena agreed with a smile. May the trainers each choose their Pokemon, the judge requested. Go, Geodude. Brock called, as Serena expected. The rock Pokemon appeared and pounded the ground with its hard fists to show it was ready. Go, Oddish. Serena yelled as she released the weed Pokemon. Once Oddish was out the Pokeball, it gave a deep breath. It hoped it could win this match for Serena. You may now begin, the judge declared. Let's start things off by using Rock Polish to raise your speed, Geodude. Brock told it with confidence. Geodude then appeared to get much shinier and smoother as it performed the attack. Now use Tackle, Brock ordered. Geodude began bouncing forward at a much quicker speed than one would anticipate due to rock polish. Try to dodge it, Oddish, Serena cried, but it was no use. Oddish was too slow to dodge the speedy Geodude, and it was sent soaring through the air. Now use Mega Punch, Brock ordered next. Goedid jumped into the air after Oddish and delivered a sold punch into Oddish's face, sending the small grass Pokemon in a horizontal beeline. It soon finally slowed down and landed on the ground with a thud. "That was great work, Goedid," Brock called while giving it a thumbs up. "Gia," Goedid responded while turning back to Brock to give him a smile. Serena, meanwhile, was trying to encourage Oddish to get up. "Come on, Oddish. You can do it. Try petal dance," she said. Oddish slowly rose to its feet and began whipping up a flurry of petals before sending them to Goedid. The rock Pokemon began to jump out of the way of as many petals as it could. Due to the amount, it wasn't able to dodge all of them, but it still kept its damage done to a minimum. It grimaced slightly at the pain but still had plenty of fight in it. Brock really does have his Pokemon well trained, Serena thought. It's too fast for Oddish to hit it with long-range attacks, so I have to get it close, but that's dangerous for a Pokemon like Goedid. "Use Rock Throw, Goedid," Brock yelled. Goedid then summoned a large amount of rocks and began throwing them at Oddish. Oddish was doing its best to dodge the rocks, but it wasn't very limber. All it could do was try to run out of the way. It wasn't long before one finally struck Oddish, and it was knocked to the ground. The difference in battle experience really showed. Oddish really has its hands full. Despite the type advantage, Brock's Goedid has so much more experience, Misty said from the side. "Yes. I'm quite amazed at how skilled Brock is. I'm really glad I was able to meet him," Susie agreed. "Finish with tackle," Brock yelled. Once more, Goedid once more began bouncing along the ground at a high speed towards Oddish, who was gasping for air. It had just received a pep talk from Serena earlier that day about it not being a sickly Pokemon anymore. It was past that stage of its life. So what was the problem? It had went with Serena so it could have a loving trainer that would help it be able to take care of itself, but it still couldn't even do that. Everyone else told it that it was strong, so all it needed to do was believe in itself. Maybe that was the key to overcome its weakness. Oddish had been a Pokemon of low self-esteem, but it couldn't let its past hold it back forever. Oddish remembered Serena telling it to let Goedid get in close. Now was as good a time as any. It used its remaining strength to jump to its feet and got a glint in its eye. "Great. Use Giga Drain, Oddish," Serena shouted. She was delighted the weed Pokemon was able to get up. It actually looked ready to fight now. "Watch out, Goedid," Brock warned. Oddish's eyes glowed blue as Goedid came to a halt, but it was already close enough for the attack to work. Goedid became enveloped in a blue light as its energy was depleted and added to Oddish's. The weed Pokemon felt a surge of energy once it felt its strength returning. Goedid must be a very strong Pokemon for Oddish to feel this kind of energy flowing inside of it. It didn't feel weak anymore. It felt quite the opposite. It felt the best it did in quite a while, actually. No more being frail and thinking lowly of itself. It was then Oddish decided to convert that energy into something useful. Oddish gave a loud cry and began to glow a shining white. "Oh my goodness! Oddish is evolving!" Serena cried with excitement as she watched. "Wait! That's not all!" she heard Ash yell as he pointed to the rock Pokemon. "Look at Goedid!" Everyone then turned their attention to the rock Pokemon and saw it was evolving, too. That was amazing. Goedid was evolving for Brock. "Goedid," Brock muttered as he watched it transform. Once both Pokemon were finished, a Gloom stood where Oddish was, and a Graveler was where Goedid was. The two newly evolved Pokemon stared at each other with confident expressions on their faces. They really wanted to win the match for their trainer. "Wow! Our Pokemon just evolved at the same time!" Serena exclaimed happily. Things really just heated up this match. Brock smiled. It is bound to get interesting. I'm really excited for this battle now. I can't wait to see how it will turn out, Ash said before addressing Pikachu. Right buddy. Pika-Pie. It agreed. Cubone Bone. Cubone cried as it cheered. Alright, Graveler. Let's start things with your rock throw. Brock commanded. Counter that with Petal Dance. Serena yelled. Both Pokemon launched their respective attacks at each other. The petals collided with the large rocks which caused a mini explosion of dust as jagged rocks littered the room. From being broken by the Petal Dance. Use Rollout. Brock commanded next. Graveler then got a running start before curling into a ball and began barreling towards Gloom. Graveler was going so fast that it was completely shattering any remaining rocks that were in its path. Dodge it, Gloom. Serena yelled. Gloom saw Graveler coming and moved out of the way just in time. It was very graceful as it twirled or flipped out of the way. Gloom almost appeared as if were dancing rather than dodging an attack. Use Stun Spore to try and stop Graveler in its tracks. Serena shouted next. Gloom then unleashed a brown powder from its flower and began to sprinkle it over as much of the field as it could. Watch out, Graveler. Here it comes. Brock warned. Graveler then used one of the many rocks in the room differently this time. Rather than plow them out of the way, it used a particularly large one to ricochet off of. It then shot through the air away from the Stun Spore. It then landed on the ground and uncurled itself to stare at Gloom, awaiting its next move. That was a unique way to dodge Stun Spore. Brock and Serena can sure come up with some interesting methods, Susie said with interest as she watched the ensuing battle. Well, that's Brock and Serena for you. Ash said with a smile. You know Serena gets her interesting ideas from you, Ash, Misty said with a knowing smile. Ha ha ha. Yeah. I guess so, Ash laughed while rubbing his neck. Let's try to get the playing field into our advantage, Gloom. Use grassy terrain. Serena called. Gloom's eyes glowed blue for a moment before the entire carpet seemed to turn to grass. Great. Now this should help us out. Serena cheered. Heads up, Graveler. We're at a disadvantage now because of the field, Brock warned. Graveler nodded its head to signify it heard Brock. Now use Rollout. Brock yelled. Graveler once more curled into a ball and began rolling towards Gloom at high speed. As it was speeding towards Gloom, the weed Pokemon once more danced out of the way, with Graveler just missing it every time. I bet I can keep Gloom off balance if I use Magnitude, Brock thought before issuing the command. Use Magnitude, Graveler. While in mid-roll, the rock Pokemon jumped into the air before slamming down onto the grassy field extremely hard. Everyone in the room felt the shock waves, but Gloom felt it the most. It swayed back and forth as it tried to keep its balance. Before it knew what hit it, Brock's Graveler slammed right into the back of it, sending it soaring through the air and landing on its back. Before it could even recover, Graveler slammed into it once more. Try Petal Blizzard, Gloom. Serena shouted. While it was soaring through the air, Gloom began to shoot a flurry of petals similar to its Petal Dance move. Graveler easily dodged the attack as it was way too quick now that its rollout was becoming more powerful. That Graveler's really fast. There has to be a move in Gloom's moveset that can slow it down, Serena muttered to herself. She thought it might be best to let Graveler get close before she issues a command. Let Graveler get really close, Serena yelled. Gloom nodded its head and stood its ground. Graveler once more turned back around for another rollout attack. Faster and faster it got until it was almost upon Gloom. The weed Pokemon was confident it could dodge Graveler one last time due to its increased agility despite having a flower on its head. Just before Graveler was upon it, Serena made her move. Dodge and use Sweet Scent, Gloom. Serena called. Gloom once more danced out of the way like before as Graveler missed it by just an inch. Gloom spun around and sprayed a large amount of sweet-smelling aroma at Graveler. The rock Pokemon was unable to dodge like last time since the playing field was now completely grass. The aroma completely covered Graveler as it began to slow down due to feeling very relaxed. Don't fall for it, Graveler. Brock tried to warn, but it was too late. Use Petal Dance. Serena yelled. Gloom once more shot a large amount of petals at the rock Pokemon. The attack struck dead on due to Graveler's decrease in speed. It was hit by every single one of the petals. As it yelled in pain, an explosion soon occurred and Graveler was blasted backwards. It flew through the air and landed before Brock's feet. Brock had a shocked look on his face. That his Graveler was knocked out. Graveler. Brock muttered sadly. Graveler is unable to battle. The winners for today's tournament are Gloom and Serena. The judge declared as he waved a flag in their direction. I actually won, Serena said in a surprised tone before her face broke into a wide grin. Gloom, we won. She then sprinted forwards as fast as she could in her nice clothes until she reached Gloom. She picked it up and gave it a big hug. I knew you could do it, Gloom. See. You really are a strong Pokemon. Serena told it. Gloom. The weed Pokemon cried happily. Serena was right. All it needed was a lot more confidence. It was true it was once a sickly Pokemon, and its past really held it back from using its full potential. Now, those days were over. Gloom would never think low of itself anymore and always give it 100% in every battle. While Serena was hugging her Pokemon, Brock went over to Graveler and helped it to its feet. You battled very hard, Graveler. I'm proud of you, Brock said. Graveler, it said sadly. Don't worry about it. I know you tried your best, and I couldn't be happier even if you won. You even evolved for me. You are still a winner in my book, Brock told it. As Susie watched the events take place, she smiled at Brock and Graveler before giving a sideways glance to Vulpix, and then back to Brock. She then nodded her head to herself. Well, that settles it, she thought. The group was now standing outside the battle chateau. Serena had just gotten her new symbol and certification to show her rank. Needless to say, she was shocked but still very pleased. It had been very hard to get here, and this match felt like her toughest yet since it was against Brock. She really felt like she earned her title today. I can't believe it. I'm actually a Duchess now, Serena gasped as she looked at her new symbol and certification. You know what that means, don't you? You can challenge the battle chatelaines the next time you enter a battle chateau. You are like an elite member now. Ash told her with a grin. Cubone. Cubone cried as it hugged its mommy for her great accomplishment. Well done. Misty added. Thanks everyone. Serena said as she almost felt tears come to her eyes that she had actually gotten this far. She was now a top contender at the battle chateau. She couldn't wait until they came across the next battle chateau. I'm really proud of you, Serena. Ash told her while giving her a thumbs up. Thank you, Ash, Serena said while blushing, not even trying to hide from Ash anymore. Ash blushed back. Pikapi, Pikachu whispered mischievously in Ash's ear, earning an annoyed look from him. I would like to thank you all for letting me accompany you to the battle chateau. It was definitely an interesting experience, but now I'm afraid I must continue on my travels. Susie told the group. Susie, could you please teach me more breeding tips before you leave, and maybe we... Brock started, but he was gently interrupted by her. Don't you see, Brock? You are already an incredible Pokemon breeder. The love you have for your Pokemon is truly admirable. There is absolutely nothing I could teach you that you wouldn't already know. I'm extremely impressed with how you handle Pokemon, Susie said. Really? Brock asked hopefully. Yes. I would say I even learned more from you than you did for me, Susie continued. She then cast a glance over to her Vulpix, and they both nodded their heads before Susie added, in fact, why don't you look after Vulpix for me for a while? What? You want me have Vulpix? Brock wondered in confusion as he looked down at the fox Pokemon. It then came over and rubbed its head against Brock's leg affectionately. I do. You are the first person besides me whom Vulpix has truly warmed up to. With your great knowledge on Pokemon, I know you would be a much better trainer to Vulpix than I ever could, Susie said with a smile. I don't know what to say except thank you, Brock said as he felt tears come to his eyes. Even though he had lost at the Battle Chateau, his role model still recognized him as an incredible breeder and was giving him Vulpix. This really just made Brock's day. Everyone smiled at the scene. They were all really happy for Brock and knew how much this meant to him. Brock then looked down at the fox Pokemon. You don't have to worry about a thing, Vulpix. I promise I will take great care of you. He then took out a spare Pokeball before pressing the center button. The red beam of light shot out to retrieve Vulpix. It was then sucked into the Pokeball where the item dinged. To show Vulpix was officially caught. Brock then smiled at the Pokeball. Goodbye, Vulpix, Susie said a little sadly. We will see each other again, right? Brock asked hopefully. I'm sure we will. We are now rivals, aren't we? Susie asked with smile as she held out her hand for Brock to shake. Huh? Sure, Brock replied as he took the open gesture and shook her hand back. Susie then looked at the rest of the group. I wish all the rest of you the best of luck in your endeavors, too. Please take care. It was nice meeting you, too, Susie. Ash said while giving her a thumbs up. Have a safe journey. Misty added. Good luck. Serena finished. Susie then gave one final wave before turning around to leave. Brock began to frantically wave back and forth as tears started to fall from his eyes. He had a great day, he made a new friend and Pokemon in Vulpix. His model called him a worthy Pokemon breeder and even put him on the same level as her. With all this in mind, Brock had a new determination to continue to be the best Pokemon breeder there was. At the rate he was going, Brock was now more confident than ever that he could do it. Everyone continued to wave until Susie was out of sight. They then put their hands down and sighed. Another new friend was going down a separate path. They were certain they would see her again at some point, though. At the very least, Brock would make sure of it. He looked once more at the Pokeball that contained Vulpix and smiled. He would definitely do Susie proud. That sure was a nice experience to meet Susie, Misty commented. It sure was, Serena agreed. I say we take a nice rest after all the events that happened today. Sounds good to me. Let's go back to the Pokemon Center and check out the Safari Zone tomorrow, Ash suggested. The group nodded and was just about to head towards the center when they heard a voice they hadn't heard in a while despite being familiar from behind them. So it seems you're still training Pokemon. I sure hope you've improved since the last time I saw you, the owner of the voice said coldly. Everyone's eyes widened as they spun around and saw a purple-haired boy glaring at them, particularly at Ash. Paul, Ash muttered in surprise.